Good evening, everybody. We'll call the November 15th meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Council members Abel.
Here.
Dennison.
Here.
Droz. Lombardo.
Here.
And Mayor Schooler.
Here. If you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to be led this evening by Mayor Pro Tem Rick Dennison.
Please join me for the pledge. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, first on the agenda this evening, recognition of State Senator Field Representative Dominic Hayden.
Hello, everybody. Like you said, Dominic Hayden with the Office of State Senator Shannon Grove. So just to give a little bit of background, every 10 years with the census, there is a redistricting process that takes place. Senator Grove's district has changed, and she'll no longer be representing this area. Her district will be going further north to represent portions of Fresno County instead of the beautiful San Bernardino County that I have called my home for the last 4 years. So I came out here in 2019 to be her full-time field rep in the San Bernardino County portions of the district. And I'm very grateful for Yucca Valley being my home these last 4 years, and for specifically all the members of the council pouring into me and investing in me and helping set me up here in Yucca Valley to be able to have success. I've been very, very grateful for the opportunities here and for the things that we've been able to do. Speaking of, I want to mention some of the accomplishments that our office has had over the last few years, and especially noting that none of these things are done alone. Everything is a team effort among multiple agencies, including the town, the county, and our various state partners. So we presented approximately 1,500 certificates of recognition just in this region of the district. We successfully stopped the relocation of 3 sexually violent predators from other counties into the high desert. Hosted the Governor's Military Council down from Sacramento in October of 2021 alongside General Renforth out here at the base. We were able to stop the closure and fully fund the Barstow Veterans Home for the continued use of our veterans who've served our country so honorably. And then also we passed SB 1195, which was signed into law by the governor this year to expand services there. We have tirelessly fought to maintain local control as the state seeks to list the Joshua tree as a threatened species after the United States EPA determined that it was not such. We've worked with local leaders to support the eradication of hundreds of illegal cannabis cultivation operations. That really, the credit goes to the county. That was a phenomenal effort that they did, and the Sheriff's Department. We cannot sing their praises enough for the monumental effort and accomplishment that they did with that. Our goal was to try to educate leaders in Sacramento on the problem that was happening on the ground and try to bring to light among the agency heads the massive problem that this illicit market is. We also saw countless lives changed overnight by the casework assistance that our office provided. So many folks don't know, but state senate and assembly offices can offer assistance with the Department of Motor Vehicles, Franchise Tax Board, as well as the Employment Development Department. We helped clear over $8,000 in mistakenly assessed taxes on a disabled veteran. Helped a Gold Star wife whose husband had died in a tragic accident to obtain the marriage certificate to ensure that his final wishes were honored. We helped an elderly woman obtain her husband's corrected death certificate after she had anguished for months without access to their shared assets. These are just a few examples of the hundreds of cases that we've had that change people's situations overnight when, unfortunately, the bureaucracy of state government bogs them down and prevents them from being able to continue on in their normal lives. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we assisted literally thousands of constituents with reaching the Employment Development Department to try to get their unemployment claims through. It's been a wonderful 4 years. I've loved the people here in Yucca Valley and in San Bernardino County. It really has become a home for me. I'm excited for the opportunity to be moving up to Bakersfield to continue working for Senator Shannon Grove, and look forward to the continued relationships with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic, and thanks to Senator Grove for having you here in the first place. That isn't necessary that they do that, but she did that. So we're happy to have had that support.
Thank
Have
you.
a certificate?
We're going to miss you.
Thank
You were an integral part of our community. Thank you for all that you did for us, and thank Senator Groves for her contribution here too as well.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Now, you said you've given out 1,500 of these, so this is really important to you. I know that.
It is. No, it
Okay.
means a lot.
All right. This reads, presented to Dominic Hyden, Field Representative of California State Senator Shannon Grove, 16th District. In recognition of your exceptional service to the Morongo Basin and the 16th California Senate District, with sincere appreciation for your dedication, commitment, and professionalism, the Yucca Valley Town Council thanks you and offers all the best to you in your future endeavors. So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Dominic, I'd also like to thank Senator Grove for putting a field representative right here in our community. Appreciate that, and you've done an excellent job representing her, and I've seen you at all the events, and you've been a real asset. We hate to see you leave, but best wishes.
Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is the introduction of new town employees.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Gumbish is going to do the formal introduction, so I'm going to ask at this time that Terry and Irina come up to the lectern, and we'll do that introduction as soon as we get up Jordan on the screen.
Let me know when you can see and hear me, okay? I can see Irina and Terry perfectly.
You're good to go, Jordan.
Gotcha.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Finance Department is happy to announce our 2 recent staff updates for the department. Firstly, you will recognize a familiar face with our most recent promotion of Terry Foster to her new position as Administrative Assistant 1. Terry started working with the town in October of 2017 as a part-time office assistant and has been the familiar face and voice for town residents when they visit or call in to Town Hall. Terry has committed to continue providing excellent service to town residents via the reception desk at Town Hall on a full-time basis, while also supporting the Finance Department and administrative services with a variety of assignments that she's already started to tackle that surround the daily functions at Town Hall. Our town's newest member of the team is Irina Hess, who was recently hired as the town's Accounting Technician 1. Irina recently moved, and I apologize if I pronounce it incorrectly. You'll have to let me know, Irina. She moved from Truskavets, Ukraine to Yucca Valley 3 years ago, where she worked for their water district and the Department of Finance and Economics of their city council as an accountant. Irina has the equivalent of a bachelor's degree from her home country, and she is currently working towards her degree from a United States educational institution. She's also a current Copper Mountain College student, if that's correct as well. So she is attending that local program there. I just want to say personally, I'm so grateful to both Terry and Irina's dedication to their new positions. Both have been training on new tasks with the town over the past several weeks, and they've both continued to impress me with how hard they're working and their enthusiasm for their new roles. So with that, I'll let Terry and Irina say hello to council, and thank you both for your time this evening.
Thank you, Jordan.
Would you like to step up to the microphone, Terry, Irina?
This microphone? Well, hello, and thank you guys so much for having me here as a part-time, much less now a full-time employee. It's been something that I've been wanting for a while. I'm passionate about this position, and I will continue to do well. And thank you all for your support as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm really grateful to be offering this such amazing job. I'm really honored to work for town, the place where people, where all employers from the top managers to just street workers are caring about the community and the residents. I truly hope that town will benefit from me, and I will do my best just to post all the financial transactions appropriate, that all the payments will meet due dates, and the town books will be always in balance. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you both, and welcome to the town team. Thank you both. Okay, we move on to the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve tonight's agenda.
All second?
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Consent, excuse me, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine matters or formal documents covering previous town council instruction. Items are enacted by one motion and a second without a separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comment on the consent agenda item should be filed with the town clerk. Does any member of the public have any comments on any item on the consent agenda? Anyone online? No? Seeing none? Any council members have any questions? Items? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's consent agenda, items 3 through 8.
Mayor Dennison will second.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Move on to item number 9, public hearings, 2022 Triennial California Building Code Adoption Ordinance 303.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Paul Osterman with Charles Abbott and Associates, the town's building and safety service contract provider. We'll give the staff report this evening. Following the public hearing, staff will be happy to answer any questions from the council at that time.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Town Council members. Before you this evening, ordinance number 303, an ordinance that amends Chapter 8 of the Yucca Valley Municipal Code by adopting the most recent editions of the California Building Codes. Effective July 1st, 2022, the state of California mandated the adoption of the 2022 editions of the California Code of Regulations, Part 24, Title 24, Parts 1 through 12, which includes California building, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, residential, green building, and energy codes. After the state code is published, every city, town, and county throughout the state has the opportunity to adopt the codes with amendments based on local geologic, topographic, or climatic conditions. Our local amendments described in the staff report are consistent with prior amendment and adoptions and reflect no changes from the last code cycle. I would like to open it up for any questions or comments on the staff report.
Sorry, does any member of the public have any comments or questions on this item? Anyone online? No? Bring it back to the council. Any questions, comments?
So this year, the code has not changed appreciably, or?
So what has not changed appreciably is the local amendments. Locally, we have the opportunity to amend the code for our own purposes of geologic, climatic conditions and what have you. The last code cycle, we covered those amendments to the code based on our location and our weather and what have you, and those haven't changed since the last code adoption.
And what, can you just summarize some of the changes that occurred statewide then, not in our local area?
Absolutely. So one semi-aggressive, if you will, state code change was to the energy code. That code mandates that all new homes being built under this code will have to be pre-wired for all electrical appliances. It's assumed, and California has been hinting about this, that they may at some point decide to ban gas-powered appliances. Therefore, they felt the need to make that a new code requirement to pre-wire all houses for all electric appliances. And I think most of you probably remember back in the late 60s or what have you, the medallion homes that were all electric. Seems to be coming back
How
around.
expensive they were. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope. It,
Okay, is this an item that we need to read the entire title?
The title was read with introduction at a prior council meeting, so that portion has been taken care of.
Great, thank you. And we'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Mayor Dennison will move the item.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second. Under protest, no.
Under protest?
No, I'm joking.
We have a motion and a
second.
second.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Moving on to, thank you, Paul. Moving on to item number 10, the 2022-23 Youth Commission appointments. May we have a staff report, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the 22-23 Youth Commission appointments. The recommendation is that the Town Council appoint the applicants recommended by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission to the 2022-23 Youth Commission and authorize the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission to review future applications and make subsequent appointments on behalf of the council. This is an action that the Town Council does annually at the beginning of the Youth Commission term. As you know, the Yucca Valley Youth Commission was established in 1995. The commission consists of young people in grades 7 through 12. The council established the Youth Commission to serve as an advisory group and provide recommendations on youth-related issues. As the council-appointed overseers of the Youth Commission activities, the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission has traditionally reviewed the Youth Commission applicants and made a recommendation for appointment. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Commission reviewed the 2023 Youth Commission applications at its meeting on November 9th, 2022, and voted to recommend appointment of all 14 of the applicants and directed staff to forward this recommendation to the Town Council. The town received a total of 14 applications for the Youth Commission. The applicants recommended for appointment are as follows, and I'm going to invite them to come up to the table to my left. Savannah Canto, Ashley Lowe, Miriam Hussein, Carlina Rhodes, Acacia Smith, Richard Abbott, Ruben Turan, Wesley McDavis, Paige Lopez Elliott, Taylor Soares, Jaylee Falcon, Seth Duvall, Avni Kaur, and Sophia Abbott. And at this time, I'd like to allow the Youth Commission applicants to introduce themselves. You're great. Your school, and why you want to be on the commission. You're a returner.
My name is Ruben Turan. I'm in 8th grade. I go to La Catena Middle School, and I wanted to join Youth Commission to help better the town and do as much as I can do in order to, I guess, make this town a better place.
Hello, I'm Richard Abbott. I'm an 8th grader at La Quintana Middle School, and I joined Youth Commission to help serve this community.
Good evening. My name is Paige Elliott. I am a sophomore at Yucca Valley High School. I want to thank you for considering me to be an applicant for the Youth Commission Board. This town is a big part of me in my childhood, and I will not hesitate to do what I can to help and service it. I'm excited for upcoming events and to get started. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Soares. I am currently enrolled at La Quintana Middle School, and I'm in the 8th grade. I just want to say what a blessing it is to even have the opportunity to be in such a great community and be able to give back to my community. And thank you for all that you have done for us.
Hello, my name is Seth Duval. I'm 14. I'm in the 9th grade, and I'm interested in the Youth Commission because I want to be a part of my community, and I wanted to represent the 9th graders at Yucca Valley High School. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophia Abbott, and I've decided to join Youth Commission because I've seen my brother and sister do such good for the community, and I also wanted to do such good for the community. So yeah.
Hello, my name is Avneet Kaur, and I'm in 7th grade at La Quintana Middle School. And I was interested in joining the Youth Commission because I wanted to be more invested in my community.
Yes.
All of those wonderful comments, completely uncoached.
You wouldn't know that. They did a very good job with that. Thank you, guys.
Off the cuff.
A lot of guts to get up there in front and speak.
Well, lots of talent up here.
Yep.
We'd be happy to answer any questions after public comment and perhaps after the vote if we could get a picture with the mayor. We would appreciate it.
Certainly. Does any member of the public have any comment on this, this item? Anyone online? No? Any council members?
Yeah, just want to say it's a great opportunity to learn leadership and to participate in so many great activities. I'm hoping that you will find it as much a wonderful experience as my kids did when they were participants. And it sets the stage for a continual life involved in service to your community, and it gives you a good place to start, and you'll have great memories. And I'm sure that Sue Ernest will keep you busy with all sorts of activities as other members have been in the past. Thank you for signing up for this.
And congratulations for applying and being selected to be in front of us tonight. I just wanted to say for everyone in the audience that Councilmember Drodes would have loved to have been here. He loves the Youth Commission. He loves to see the young people being involved. He's a former teacher at the high school and then on to the college. And again, he took a fall, couldn't be here tonight, but I knew he wanted to be here to support you and to vote you in tonight. As far as myself, thank you. It's great to see so many young people volunteering. You're going to get some experience that you're going to be able to grow upon each and every year, and we see more and more applicants reapplying after their first year. So hopefully you'll have a great experience and that you'll be back here in front of us a year from now with some more ideas on how you can support the community.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. This is a great journey. My kids went down this same road too and had a wonderful experience, and they remember to this day being on the Youth Commission. But your input into our community through all the different activities that you'll do, getting to know all of us here in the council, you can really move the needle of what happens in our community for the future. So don't be shy about talking about the things that you're passionate about that maybe might be years away. But all those things, those conversations start, and your ideas are what really help us with that. And I hold a lot of value to every one of you for your participation. So I'm so glad you got up there, and y'all did great talking tonight. It's a great starting point. I think we'll have you do a little more later. Congratulations.
Yes, and thank you all for applying. I looked at the roster, and what a good balance. You've got 14 youth commissioners, 7 of them are in high school and 7 in junior high. It's a good mix, good representation. That's a good number to work with, too. You will be members of probably, the 26th or 27th Youth Commission that we've had in Yucca Valley. When we first started out, it was new and it was fresh, and they kind of paved their own way. Now we've got a pretty well-established Youth Commission, and you'll be part of that. We still run into members of that early Youth Commission, the first and second years, in the community holding pretty high-level jobs, and not just in this community. They come back and they visit us. Excuse me. So we look forward to seeing you this year, but 20 years from now, too. So if we want to take well, first of all, we should take a motion on this.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all the nominees for
to appoint the Youth Commission. Okay, we have a motion.
And I'll be second.
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Okay, we'll take that picture.
Congratulations. You gonna go be with him? Should we? You want him?
Oh, he took off.
You took off back, okay.
I think he took the opportunity to run outside.
I'm sorry?
He just took the opportunity to go grab something.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he came
He
in.
might not have eaten.
He walked right from
Oh,
the
I
door
didn't
right
see
to
that.
here.
I didn't see that. Had good food back there, too. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet he just grabbed that last beer.
Only has a few seconds to eat it, though. Oh, there you go. Thank you for attending.
Okay. All right, moving on to item number 11, one we've been waiting for quite a while. This is the Architectural and Engineering Design Update for the Prop 68 Aquatics and Recreation Center project. May we have a staff report on this one, please?
Mayor, Council, this is an exciting night for both you and the community as we get to bring to you another update on our Prop 68 Aquatics and Recreation Center project. This milestone project's been in the works for a number of years, as you know, and each step we're getting a little bit closer and closer. So we're going to bring up the presentation here in just a second, and I'm going to go through just a couple of introductory slides, and then we're going to introduce the rest of the team to you today. So on our next slide here, we're going to have our project, the town team that we've established. We were talking about this earlier this evening, some of the benefits of using this approach, and you might hear this later in the presentation. But you'll notice that in our team, we have essentially every function represented. And while it's been sometimes a little bit of a grind, I'll tell that to the team, every Wednesday we're meeting, whether it's in person or remotely, every Wednesday practically since February. And we've been able to get through this project, but a lot of that is because of the fantastic input that this entire team has brought each and every day to this project. So this is your town team. On the next slide, we have the management team. Stephanie, you'll hear from in just a minute, is our project manager that is assisting us with ensuring that the project is delivered on time and that each of our steps on our schedule are continuing to be met. And then on the next slide is our HMC architect team. Brad, Adeline, John, and Sergio are all here this evening. You're going to hear from them in different areas of the presentation. So, so far the progress, the experience, while it's been a lot of work, has been tremendous. And we're really looking forward to being able to deliver this asset to the community, which will long outlast all of us for sure. And so exciting time tonight. You'll see a little bit more of the details inside the project as well. And we'll be able to answer additional questions that you may have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the project manager, Stephanie Fujimura, and she can take it from here. By the way, Stephanie told me it was a 4-hour drive coming in from Pico Rivera this evening. So thank her for her patience coming in this evening.
I apologize for my tardiness, but good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for taking the time today to review this project and let us give you updates. We've been working very diligently since we've last met. Curtis mentioned that we've been working hand in hand with your staff here and all the departments to ensure that as we start defining the design and start putting together the construction documents, we are currently at the 60% mark with the intention of submitting to the building department come the beginning of December. But every step of the way, we've been working with your team, and yes, I've been giving them homework, and every Wednesday and every Thursday we've been meeting to power through everything. So for the last 4 months, we have been taking the design that you saw a couple months ago and starting to put names and products and really boiling down the interiors of it. So a lot of what you'll see tonight is progress from the interiors, the materials, the feel, the real soul of the building. And then also site work updates, exterior updates, and so forth. Again, with the goal of submitting in the beginning of December, and then with hopefully getting through the building department in the months to come, and then being out to bid March-ish of next year. Parallel to that, we are going to be putting out an RFP for construction management services. So I'm reviewing that currently with Shane and Curtis, and that will go out in the next couple of months as well to move things along. So we are ready to go once the bids come back. And with that, I will turn it over to the HMC team to show you what we've been working on. I'm not sure why that's not working. Up there you go.
Come on up here, John.
Okay, I'll click.
I'd like to, Brad Glassick from HMC Architects, if you didn't catch that great-looking headshot I just took last week, actually. It's been great. I was just talking with Shane and Curtis that it was a year ago that we were actually out here on Veterans Weekend doing the job walk for this project. I said, Curtis shared it was a 50-50 weekend out here, 50 degrees and 50-mile-per-hour winds. That's a normal Veterans Day weekend, but it was a beautiful day last year. And I just am really excited to show you, as we were talking about that, the progress that has been made in this dream in the community for so many years. There's been an immense amount of progress made over this last year. I also have to thank the town. I don't think I shared this the last time I was here. You gave us me personally, my best Christmas gift last year, because it was December 23rd when Stephanie emailed me that we had been selected to win this project. So it's been a great year. It's been a lot of fun. I think I speak for the entire team that this is actually, project meetings are some of the things we have just really loved to do out here and watch this project take shape. As Stephanie mentioned, we gave you an update some months ago that really focused on the exterior of the building and the shape and feel of the overall project and the site. What we've been doing over the last few months is really working a lot on the details of what the systems are in the building, meeting, as Stephanie and Curtis said, weekly with the entire team, talking endlessly about the lobby. Right, Sue? Where did Sue go? Oh, Sue's not here. Yeah, but we've been talking about all this detail. So we're excited to show that to you. So tonight we're going to give you a quick update of a little bit of what you've seen already just to set the context. And then Sergio, our Director of Interior Design, is really going to share with you really that vision that you haven't seen yet of what the inside of the building looks like, where we weren't the last time we shared with the council. So we're very excited to be here again tonight and hope you enjoy what you see.
All right, good evening, everyone. Oh, sorry, I'm short, so I'll lower that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adeline Contreras, and I'll quickly give a plan and site update on the project. Some technical difficulties, but
Yeah, just ask for the next slide, basically.
okay.
It's broken.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So just a quick update on the floor plan. As you can see, not much has changed on the floor plan. A lot of the spaces and adjacencies are still the same, but I promise there are changes as we get into the 3D images. You'll start seeing the finishes and what these spaces are starting to look like. But a lot of the plan has remained the same. We are still keeping the same gym square footage, which will still house the main basketball court, some cross courts, volleyball courts, and pickleball courts, which we'll get more into detail. That's at 9,400 square feet. We're also gonna, touch base on the natatorium. That's currently at 12,400 square feet. There's, again, images, you'll see that there's a video display board for movie nights. There's some games in there for the toddlers. We'll go more in depth onto that. But overall, we've been able to maintain a lot of the square footage for the total building area at about 38,000 square feet, so not much changes on the plan. Next slide. Some site updates. So we've been further developing the details. There are some site updates. The majority of it from here, you can see that some of the scope has increased. The reason for that is to better connect to Brem Recreation Park, but also provide more amenities for the community. So I'll briefly go through them, and then we'll start looking at some of the imageries of these spaces. To start off on the north, we're starting to see that the paving We're actually continuing that road out to Palm Avenue to provide another access into this facility, which will contain additional parking and some PV panels for shading of the parking spaces. On the north parking lot, we're adding more parking. Some of these will contain some EV charging stations as well as PV panels for shading of the cars and vehicles. This parking is really close to the performance area that we're planning for and a flexible event space on the northern side of the building. So if there's any community events, concerts, swim meets, people can gather there and enjoy the space. On the west side of the building and throughout the site, there is some additional seating, with a lot of the majority being on the west side for people to enjoy a soccer game, if their kids are playing. But there are also places for shade structure to provide shade for people sitting there, picnics, whatever events people are having out there. There are some locations throughout the building for community art that we are planning for. So these can be, people can go in there, express their artwork, put them up for a couple months, and we can always alternate them. So we're providing for some events where there will be lighting for this artwork. And then with also providing some pool decks and an activity deck to the south for, people to hang out and lounge. They're in the pool, want to bathe, grab some sun, or if they want to go and work out in the NPR room, they can extend classes to the exterior and provide that activity deck. So with that, we'll go into some of the exterior and interior.
Hang on one second, if I can interrupt you. Can you go back to that slide? I just want to point something out to the council and the community. I think it's important to note that this project, as we've gone through it, it's very easy for us to say, well, we should just do this at the same time, we should just do this at the same time. The funding that we received for it is definitely not going to cover everything that we have wanted to do here, but it makes a lot of sense. So for example, on the circulation on the north side, that is new infrastructure that is going to help complete the park anyways. Additional sidewalk and pedestrian pathways on both the east side and on the north side of the park. Some of those connectivities that we would like to do as part of completing Bram Park anyways are being wrapped up into this project simply because it's so cost effective to do at the same time that we're building everything else. And so I believe we have scheduled at your next council meeting a separate conversation on the budget and the funding. What you'll end up seeing is a number of different pockets of funding that represent some of the additions that are coming into the project so that we can leverage efficiencies at the same time of construction. So some of these things that Adeline has gone over, like the shade shelters, the sidewalks, even the PV and some of the additional efficiencies that we're building in from day one, we'll be doing that with additional funding coming into the project and then leveraging those grant funds to deliver. Hopefully, the real goal is from day one, a turnkey completed project, and that's really our goal here. So.
Eddie, it's nice to see everybody again. I'm going to give you a quick update on the building exterior. As Brad alluded to, in large part, I know in the last time we saw you guys a few months at this council meeting, I walked you guys through some of the concept and idea behind the exterior. That's largely the same, right? We've carried through that intent. We certainly heard some positive feedback, but as both Brad and Addie said, we've been developing and driving some details. So I'll give you a little tour around that briefly and then try to save time for Sergio to jump in the interiors and show you some stuff that will seem a little more fresh. So big picture, right, this is the south facade. You can see it's developing off of that same conceptual design of really echoing the topography and the landscape, the texture of the hills beyond, along with these playful elements, with the fence line and some of the colors that really evoke the aquatic nature of the programming. We've been really working on the technical aspects of that, and I'm proud to say the building is still on a good course with that. As part of that, selecting specific materials, we've gone out here and held up some of the different samples and colors to make sure that they're evoking, which different colors and textures most parallel what you see on the rocks and hills beyond, right? There's sort of the buff-colored stones and these different levels of oxidation. I think I talked about that a little bit last time, but we've been grinding away on the detailing and attachment and all the connections that make that happen. This is an updated view of the main entry as you come into that drive drop-off zone, right? This is where there's a drop-off aisle where you can park. some crosswalks to bring accessible parking so everybody has a real equitable access to the front of the building. You can see there's some seating and some areas to wait, as well as some overhangs on the building. So people can get picked up and dropped off on their way to different community programming or swim lessons or what have you. Addie mentioned the exterior pool deck, right? This is a view out here. So we have an operable wall where the building opens up. Obviously, we know that the weather can be a little harsh out here sometimes, but there's also a lot of really great days, or at least several hours a day, where you can open this up. It's also a cost-effective way to expand the amount of pool deck real estate you have when the weather is nice. You can open the doors and get more people in there to occupy that outdoor space. In this area, that sort of brightly colored element is a security fence that keeps that secure and maintains your access control, but still just has a playful visual presence while it's doing that. I think one comment that came up last time was the shade structures, and as Addie mentioned, we've continued to develop the outdoor amenities with locations for community art to be placed in the future, as well as the shade structures along the western edge of this project parcel on the eastern edge of Brim Park. So these can serve whether you're doing a little fitness walk or you're here to watch a soccer game in Brim Park or any variety of other reasons. So there's some shade area here, as well as at the northern, I'd say this is the northwest of our site, so the northeast corner of Brim Park. And then beyond there, you can see a northern plaza area. This is quite a bit more open and simple than the outdoor pool deck. That's fairly sheltered, both for privacy and security concerns with its open access to the pool deck. This is much simpler with a wide open space, which gives you the flexibility to spill out and do a variety of different events. So we see this as more of a flexible event space where you can have pop-up tents if you have, say, a swim meet and you need more capacity for teams, if you want to do a farmer's market or a beer walk or what have you, right? There's a space, this becomes a community space directly adjacent to this new facility. And, oh, I've gone one too many. And if we back out even further, right, we've gone to the very northern edge of our scope of work, just south of that drive we were talking about. We've relocated the pad for the community stage to this corner of the park, both so we can get fire access and community access out from where the stage is now. We need to get through there. Also gives us a really nice connection where you can have an event here and you can see into the natatorium space, into the pool space, where it faces north, where solar glare isn't a problem. And if I jump back there, this is standing just outside the door to that pool space. If you're just walking out, this is walking into that space. Again, you have the visual connection to the stage because as we work together, there's a lot of fun ideas. People have come up just in this short time we've been talking about it. I'm sure you'll come up with a lot more. But people mentioned you could pipe the sound from a community performance into the natatorium or have swim up fireworks where you can see from the pool room out to the stage and vice versa. There's a lot of nice things you could do there. So this is a little more of an expansive space with just kind of open pavement and open turf areas for the community to use as they see fit. Coming around to the north end of the building, this is a little more utilitarian up here. As we mentioned, I think Curtis had indicated we're developing the design of photovoltaics. We've looked at the planning and the energy modeling that this should offset about a full half of the energy use of this facility. So that's really exciting. It'll give you some insulation. We all know energy prices have been a little hectic lately, so it is a long-term investment that you can continue to have power for the facility, and we're going to keep working on the design and engineering of those. And as Addie mentioned, they also give some shading over the parking stalls. And then we have the entrance into the gymnasium here on the north. On that note, I'll hand it over to Sergio, and he's going to walk you through some of the interiors.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and really present the interiors for this project, which is very, very exciting. And I hope you guys really like it because it's really evoked from the community and the landscape of the surrounding landscape. So again, so this is, really a lot of the inspiration for the project as well as for the interiors is really through the natural landscape of your community. It's such a beautiful place here, and so we really wanted to celebrate that from the architecture and bring it into the interiors of the building, creating a really kind of a seamless experience as you kind of walk from the parking lot, you see the building and into the main lobby and as you go throughout the building, it's really these moments or these colors that we're inspired by, sort of the natural sunsets, the rock formations, the oxidation in the landscape. And so you're going to see some of these ideas and sort of these concepts as they materialize in really kind of unique elements and ways throughout the interior. So as you walk into the main entry lobby, you're walking in and you're greeted by a central reception desk. And this is the first point of entry where visitors are greeted into the recreation center. And so what we're seeing here is you have the space is divided between with a security fence that provides security and access control into this space. And so as members are coming in, they're being greeted, they're registering, or we've also provided sort of a self-service kiosk just to the right of that. And so that as people can come in, if they've already registered or become a member of the community, they can just check in at the self-kiosk and badge themselves into the recreation center. A lot of the colors and things that you're seeing here, again, such as the ceiling soffits, right? That is sort of evoked by sort of the canyons that you might see. The colors that you're seeing along that far wall really is achieved by sort of a tunable light that starts to evoke some of the colors that you see within the sunset, right? The evening sky. We're also really celebrating the space by the different recreations that might occur here, such as dance and basketball and swimming. And so we really want to make this a fun and vibrant experience and place that as people walk through, it's kind of a different experience as you partake in this facility. So you see here again, some of the elements and as the movements and the shapes and the curves, such as a central desk, it's really sort of inspired by the rock formation. So we have this wood element that's this sort of curved, amorphous shape, again, that really starts to take on these forms that you might see in the natural landscape, but really provides sort of this unique experience, unique features that is really, it's unique to this project. So these are all sort of custom designed elements that really sort of celebrate the natural landscape and this aquatic center. As you just go through the security gates, this is that center part that really is the hub to all the different activity spaces within the aquatic center. So just to the left, you're seeing the day locker areas where people, they can go in and if they have their stuff, they can put their stuff in there for the gym, or the multi-purpose activity room. Or if this is a place where parents want to wait for their kids that have a swim class, this is a soft, comfortable area where people can congregate. Again, the entire facility is Wi-Fi enabled, so it's really a comfortable place where they can come, sit, wait, or meet their other friends and family as they're partaking in all the different activities within the space. Oops. So this is the express lockers. Again, these are lockers just right outside or just inside of the lobby adjacent to the natatorium. And again, this is really, we're providing multitude of lockers. So, have small, medium, and large, so that it provides a variety of choice depending on what activity you're doing. Providing some benches, just a real comfortable place to kind of set yourself up to go to the different activity areas. So as we're walking in, this is the locker and restroom area. So again, you're seeing these vibrant colors, textures, patterns that are really just sort of fun and hopefully get people excited. One of the things that we want to make sure that we do is we want to provide equitable spaces for all kinds of people. And so what we're showing here are the family restrooms, which is really important. So again, gender neutral family restrooms where parents can go in together with their children, get them dressed or attend to them as they need to. So this is really important and a nice amenity for members that need to go to use the services together. Part of that is also creating these family restrooms that have, again, these accessible features such as the adult changing table. Again, there's the community has many different needs, and we want to make sure we're providing equitable access to the community so that they feel comfortable and safe within this space. So this is just a really important feature that, that we provide these services and these amenities for your constituents, so that they feel welcome coming to this place and can partake of all of the activities in a comfortable area. So this is the first look into the women and locker room. So you can see, there's lots of vibrant colors, wood textures. All of these materials that you see here are durable, timeless, and very easily maintained. A lot of these, like the flooring, is a high coefficient slip resistance, so that our people that are coming in and walking around throughout the facility, they're not going to slip. This is a very safe product, but everything you see here is just very clean. From the showers, it's bright, white, clean. People are going to feel welcome to come in here, change, feel comfortable. As you're walking in, again, depending on who's in there, we've provided some seating so that as people are changing or coming in and out, it provides them a quick spot for them to wait for their family or people to come in and out. But it's just a really nice, warm, welcoming area as they enter, change, and then head into the different spaces. This is the men's locker room, very similar. Again, just a different color palette. So this is the multi-purpose activity room, and again, this is one of those spaces that I'm really kind of excited about, because as you go in here, this is, one of the things that inspired me in this design was kind of this idea of water and this spring. We know how water is critically important to us and into this community. And so, I kind of liken this activity room as kind of a place of respite or like a well. And so just the curvature, the shape of it is sort of the oasis. And the lighting feature is a tunable light that, again, as depending on what activities you have in there, it goes from a bright white that is sort of your regular lighting, so you could have your spin class or your different sort of activities, or if you were going to have a yoga class and you want something that's a little softer and a little bit moodier, you could tune the lights again to sort of start to emulate sort of what the night sky would be. So this space really is functional for a lot of different activities, and so that is just sort of one of those special features that really is inspired by the landscape. This activity room is connected to the gymnasium as well as the outdoor activity space. So it really has this flexibility and functionality to really kind of connect all these different spaces for a lot of different activities. Again, all of these areas are Wi-Fi enabled. They have speakers, and so you'll find as you go through the different spaces, you really can start to use these spaces in many different ways. Again, all of the materials here are very durable and timeless. This is a wood look element, but it has a soft cushion back so that, again, it's safe to perform different activities such as yoga and dance and things of that nature. Heading into the gymnasium, again, this is, we've looked at every space and really tried to evoke and emulate some of the natural landscape. And so in this space, as Addie had mentioned, this is a space where you can play basketball, volleyball, pickleball. You have bleachers on one side, and it really is just a active space and an exciting space. Again, we're seeing the topography, sort of the paint and the patterns of the topography behind on the walls. We provided acoustical board, so that it reduces some of the noise. But again, this you can play sports in here, or it could possibly be rented out to maybe one of the local high schools. We provided speakers in here. We provided tunable light again, so if one of the schools want to have a dance, you can come in here and it's already ready to serve those different activities. This is just a shot looking back towards the main entry. Heading into the natatorium, this is, again, another really exciting space. You're seeing, this is a view from leading in from the locker room. So as you're walking out, you're seeing, this is the view that you would see. And again, we wanted to really celebrate this idea of water and play and activity, and we tried to make it really fun. And so as you walk out into the pool deck, again, it's a concrete pool deck with a tile edge. You can see the different, floating devices, or play toys and floating devices in the pool. We have a couple of different sections of the pool. We have a zero edge that is intended for toddlers and small children, where there's some play, like a spray, thing, a spray bubbler. We have a slide for kids that are safe as they go down the slide. It's shallow water, so again, it's really sort of an area for families to congregate with small children. The middle section of the pool is really that space where it's about 48 inches deep, where you'll have yoga classes, water yoga classes, and people learning to swim. That's where they would be, in that middle section of the pool. Again, you could also have other pool toys and things where the community can play in that center zone. And then on the far, in this the space closest to us, is sort of the deep end of the pool, where you would have swim meets and other sort of, we have a zip line. I'll just go across. You have a zip line that people can kind of hang on and kind of fall into the deep end of the pool. So there's a lot of different zones and areas where people can really kind of have fun depending on their ability. And again, what we're doing here is we're providing seating within the natatorium, so that, again, as we have different swim meets and swim classes and whatnot, that parents and family can really sit in this space, watch their children or their loved ones really just learn and have fun and whatnot. Also in this area, we have, tunable lighting. So again, you can have some really kind of cool nights where, you can have a movie night where we have these large digital display board where you can project or you can have display movies. People can watch them from the pool. They can watch them from the deck. Again, there's tunable lighting where you can turn the lighting down. So a lot of different opportunities and activities really are taking place in here. Again, this is the shallow end, or the zero edge pool, so you can start to see, the kids' pool slide as they, on the zero edge, they just walk in, and really is just a really safe area for small children to play and to learn, and it's really a family-oriented space. And again, we're just really celebrating the activities of the space, so you can see sort of the diving, the decals that we have on the upper soffit there. And again, everything in this pool is really just sort of durable, timeless, and easily maintainable. So it's really going to last a really long time for your community. One of the really nice features is that we've planned a wet multi-purpose room, and so this is actually kind of cool and exciting. This is an opportunity where your lifeguards and staff can have meetings, trainings, lifeguard trainings, things like that. So it's a multifunctional space, but it's also an opportunity for the community to rent this space out, potentially have birthday parties. We've provided some refrigerator, or we're going to have refrigerators, and we have a sink and whatnot, so that people can come in there and they can serve cake and whatnot, and have a community room for people to come in and have a good time, whether they're in the pool or you're having an event just right outside. The nice thing is that this space connects into the natatorium, but it also connects to the outdoor pool deck. So again, if you're having this this birthday party or this small event, it goes right out to the outdoors where there's plenty of seating, tables, chairs, lounge chairs, whatnot. So it's really all connected, and it really provides a lot of opportunity for gathering and space and activity and fun. And so it's just a really exciting space. And last but not least, it's the administrative area. So we've walked through all of the different activity zones, but the administrative area is just as important. So this is just also right off the lobby, and you can see that you're getting a lot of natural daylight. There's visual access into the lobby, so people, as they walk in, they can see the staff. and they can engage. We're providing flexible furniture systems, so as your team grows or the team that manages this facility grows, we can kind of take that and pick up and move it around if we need to. Again, if as team come in with volunteers, we have flexible workstations where they can come in, sit, do their work, and then go about, go do their thing. If it's just a temporary situation. We have a workroom or a conference room. Again, the furniture in there is very flexible. So again, as we need a conference room, you can have it in a traditional sort of conferencing style, or you can collapse tables and put it, push it against the wall and provide more space to have, to do, put goodie bags together or to put flyers together. So there's a lot of opportunity and space in here that provides your team to do their functions for this facility. There's a conferencing area. And again, all of this is Wi-Fi enabled. You have speakers, fun, vibrant, comfortable space, natural daylight for your team, visual access to the exteriors, visual access to the interiors. And so just a really nice place to work on top of it being a fun place to work.
All right, so this is just a quick update on our schedule. As we've said, we've been out here very frequently. Every time I come out, my 5-year-old daughter asks me when it's going to be ready to swim. There's a little ways to go, but that red line has come quite a ways down since the last time we presented here. So we're wrapping up our construction documents basically the rest of this month with the plan to go into agency and permitting early in December, try to get in ahead of that code cycle change that was mentioned. And that will transition into town approval and bidding, as Stephanie said, towards the end of Q1 of next year. Any questions?
Stephanie, anything else that we need to bring to the council's attention, or are we good?
No, just we'll be doing the construction management parallel to that, so that come Q1 of next year, you guys will be all set to go.
Council, again, the town team has had a great experience with both Dallin, with our project manager, as well as HMC to this point. We still got a ways to go, and shovels haven't turned yet, so that'll be the big day. But excited to bring this to you. Happy to answer questions as the public or the council has this evening.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. It's awesome. Does anybody in the room this evening, member of the public, wish to comment or ask any questions about this? Seeing none, do we have anybody online wanting to chime in? Well, we'll bring it back to the council. I'll start myself. This is awesome. The project just gets us really excited. I've counted, I think, 5 or 6 members of the community in the room tonight that have worked at the existing pool over the years, and including Councilmember Abel was a lifeguard. But we know the difference between what we've had and where we're going to be, and that's just so awesome to look at. It gets us pretty excited, and the way it blends in with the other facilities over there at Brem Park and the environment, I appreciate that. But I'll hold off and ask for comments from Councilmember Abel. No, Councilmember Lombardo.
Yeah, I really enjoy the design elements and the use of color. I like the way you described that room with the oval ceiling as an oasis or a well, and I can see the opportunities to have all sorts of different things there with the ability to control the lighting. I think that's going to be very useful. I like the idea of being able to dim the lights even in the pool area, where I can envision, like inner tube day, where you bring your inner tube, you sit in the pool and you watch a movie on the screen. Those kind of things could be really a lot of fun and a way to pull the community in on one of those hot summer evenings where sitting in the pool sounds like a really good idea. Right now, today, it's a little cool out there, but there'll be days when it'll be really appreciated even more. I just think you're doing a wonderful job, and I really like the way that you're explaining things to us as you're going along. Helps us understand a lot of what goes into it. It's It's met all my expectations and brought in things I hadn't thought of, and I'm just really excited. Your expertise is showing, and we're really glad we selected all of you for the parts you're playing in this. And we look forward to seeing it come even farther into fruition here. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a comment. Thank you for the deep dive. You know, that's kind of a play on words. But what you've done so far to kind of keep the project going forward, even as more things have been stacked on top of it. You've integrated it well. You've listened to our prior discussions about some of the things that we thought. I've seen that they've been integrated in there. I'm really excited. Our community, a pool is a necessity. Especially something that's available to everybody in the community at all ages, and they can have, kind of satisfy whatever it is that they think is important to them. The schools for years have not been able to participate in activities that you are bringing to our community. So it's a lot more than just a swimming pool. It's really something that will help build more community here, and that's what we like. But I appreciate the comments. It wasn't the first time I've heard from staff that there's good participation on everybody, and you're all pulling the rope the same direction. Sounds like the timeline is starting to get more aggressive and more aggressive. 24 is not that far away. So keep up the good work. I'm completely in support of the project so far, and the expanse that has happened with the original vision. So there'll be, I guess, other things that we'll see. And it looks like you guys are more than willing to integrate those ideas. So thank you.
Okay, and I had a couple of questions, clarification. Total project space is 38,000 square feet, is that right? Excuse me.
Yeah, just a hair under that. It's
Okay.
37.8, 37.9.
Okay.
Just a hair under.
All right,
38,000.
thank you. And the solar panels, did I hear that they will accommodate half? Is that what the number I heard, half of the electrical requirements?
Yeah, this is our standard practice as well as Title 24. Our engineers, our electrical engineers have prepared an energy model which looks at the performance of the building and the projected annual use throughout the seasons, and that takes into account both the insulation and structure of the building, the mechanical requirements, and the climate. And that kind of gives us a gross estimate of what the building should use, and then we can, from there, do the math to figure out how much those solar panels provide, which is coming at just over 50%.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'd like to just thank you all for the presentation and for the hard work on this, and take the opportunity again to thank Assemblymember Mays for making this project possible in the first place. He's a pivotal part of this. He's a former staff member at the town and former council member at the town, and it's his vision, lifeguard, his vision to bring a gym and a pool to Yucca Valley is coming to fruition. So shout out to him and also to Stephanie for the 4-hour drive, and hope it was worth it. We're really happy to have you guys on board. So thank you for the report. Very good.
Mayor Schooler, one more question. Is it anticipated to be electrically heated for the pool, or is it going to be gas-fired?
The pool boilers themselves are gas-powered.
Are gas-powered. Are you going to have any problem building that with the new changes in the building laws coming up?
No, that shouldn't apply to a pool heater.
It won't apply to the pool
Plus,
heaters.
We should be in the previous code cycle regardless, but that applies to residential gas appliances. It shouldn't apply here.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we move on to item number 12, the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022.
Mayor and Council, tonight will be a receive and file of the annual financial reports for the most recent fiscal year ended June 30th. We have Scott Mano with Rams, who helped lead the audit team for this year's audit process that began in May with interim audit and then wrapped up in September and October of this year. And his team helped compile all of these financial reports. So I will go ahead and turn it over to him once he's up at the podium. I just wanted to thank him for taking the time to drive over as well. I hope his was not also 4 hours.
Wow, that's a long drive.
Thank you, Jordan. Council, that's it.
My name's Scott Mano. I'm a partner at Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. I'm going to kind of go over a high-level view of what an audit is and what we actually do to get to this document. Oh, no way. Oh, I can't read it. Jordan's picture's in the way. Our responsibility is to audit the town's financial statements in conformity with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. We plan the audit to express an opinion as to management's financial statements. That's one thing that I love to stress in this when I do these is these are management's financial statements. They're not mine. I claim pages 1, 2, and 3. That's it. Everything else is management's. We're expressing an opinion is whether the financial statements have been fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. Now, another thing that I like to stress is that we provide reasonable assurance. Now, reasonable assurance in auditing standards is a high level of assurance, but it's not absolute assurance. So we can't say that for 100% this is free of material misstatement, but we do say at a high level of assurance that it is free of material misstatement. And I'm pleased to say that we expressed an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can provide on the statements. So it's the clean opinion. And then we assisted management in drafting the statements as well. Wrong way again. Who am I pointing at? Is this working, or are you just playing with me? Like Jordan said, we typically divide the audit up into two pieces. One is an interim piece and one is a year-end piece. The interim piece of the audit is basically gaining understanding of, readjust our understanding of the entity, review various systems, cash receipts, payroll, disbursements, contracts, and then we test controls as we feel necessary. And then the year-end audit is when we come out and we actually audit the numbers. You know, the town says we have $10 million in the local agency investment fund. We say, prove it. So they'll supply us some documentary evidence. And in that process, we'll inspect documents, we'll confirm with third parties. You know, we can go onto the LAIF website ourselves and download the town statement as of June 30th and gives us the balance of that account right there. And we perform various analytical procedures, which in turn will drive us to do a deeper testing as needed. Other work we do, we read the council minutes, see what you guys are doing, see what town is presenting to you. We do the GAN limit, the appropriations limit report as well, and we review other documents, contracts, debt agreements, et cetera. And I have to say, with this new project that you guys have going on, it's going to really have a lot of costs now that we're going to have to look at during the audit process. Completing the audit, you know, like Jordan said, we prepare them, but they're the towns, they're the managements. We compile them. We review management's MD&A, the letter of transmittal, and the statistical sections. We don't express opinions on the letter of transmittal or the statistical section. We just look at it to make sure that the numbers agree with what the statements say. We complete the audit review process in our office, going through our work papers, make sure we got everything that we need. And then we develop opinions on the statements, and we have an internal control and compliance report that we do, and we have a SAS 114 letter to governance that we do. The internal control compliance is a report that we don't express an opinion on internal controls, but if we find a material weakness or a significant deficiency, we are required to report it to you. And I'm happy to say we had nothing to report, so that is a clean report as well. And then we also do Measure Y and Measure Z, agreed upon procedures, not as detailed as an audit. There's specific procedures that we do related to how the measures were passed. We had no findings on either of those as well. And then we do assist the town in whether it's kind of a compliance testing as well. It's actual cost testing and compliance testing as well. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to ask or answer.
Thank you, Scott. Does any member of the public have any comments or questions? Anyone online? No? Bring it back to the council. Questions, comments?
The new pool project will just increase the complexity of the money coming in and out, but
Yeah, it will.
it should be all very well defined and.
Yeah, your expenditures are going to go way up, and it'll be a little more complex than what it usually is, especially a construction project of this size.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just want to say thank you, Scott. You've been here for a few years since I've been here, year after year, great consistency, right to the point, and that's important when it comes to the numbers. And I'm very proud of the work the staff does to maintain the numbers that we do. So thanks again for all the work. I did read the pages that you had and the entire CAFR, but I did see you contributed there, and thank you for that.
Okay, thanks again, Scott, and thank you to staff and your teamwork to pull it together and for the good financial report. So thanks for all the hard work. Thank you. We're good.
All right, I want to thank staff too. I want to thank Jordan, thank Curtis, thank all the finance staff. You guys do a great job. You know, it makes our job a lot easier when we come in and things are ready, and we just come in and do our audit and get out. And then,
Okay, great.
And then here you go.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There it is.
So that's receive and file, so no motion is necessary on that. So we move on to item number 13, the year-end budget report and allocation of excess fund balance for the year ending June 30th, 2022. May we have a staff report?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and share my screen and get started. So this will tie right into the year-end financials with the same fiscal year ended June 30, 2022. And I will ask to share my screen. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. So we'll go ahead and get started with a comparison of our expectations of what fiscal year 2022 financial impacts were going to be, and then what our reported results actually were. So this is the general fund revenue summary for year ended June 30th. The total general fund revenues equaled $17.3 million, which exceeded budgeted expectations by $2.2 million. All revenue sources were higher than expectations, partially due to conservative estimates on finances side of things when preparing the budget, but there were also some additional drivers of those increases, which included higher property values for those property tax revenues, increased economic activity, and then the continued growth in the short-term vacation rental usage. So to hone in on some of those revenue sources, this is the sales tax revenue trends. You can see that they've continued to grow at steady rates through 2022 and have returned to more of a normal growth trend after that spike that we saw in 2021. Overall sales tax revenues have grown just over 38% over the past 3 years, with majority of increases resulting from just an overall increase in the town's portion from the county pool. San Bernardino County has seen increased sales tax revenues as well due to online sales tax collections with the new Wayfair Act that was passed I think a year or two ago. And then we've also seen increases in sales at fuel stations, and then the increase mostly in sales of building and construction goods. Another major revenue source that has seen a lot of growth over the past few years has been transient occupancy tax revenues, which you can see increased dramatically over the past 3 to 4 years with the implementation of the town's short-term vacation rental ordinance. As of 2022, the majority of the town's TOT revenues are generated from short-term vacation rentals rather than traditional lodgings, with a total of 2.2 million of the total 2.6 million reported solely from STVRs. So total 2.6 million TOT revenues, of that 2.2 was just from short-term vacation rentals. This just shows the allocation of percentages of operating revenues for those major fund sources in the general fund. You can see that it's now a balanced mix of major revenue sources, demonstrating a higher likelihood of stability of general fund revenues. In the prior years, property tax dominated and was roughly 50% of the general fund's revenue sources. But as you can see, as sales tax has grown, franchise revenues and TOT revenues have grown, the general fund is much less dependent on that one revenue source.
Nice.
So in comparison to prior year, the general fund revenues have increased by $1.7 million, with the highest growth generated from, again, TOT, and then property tax and franchise fees. The other revenues that you can see increased that bottom line there for a total of 2.3 million, almost 2.4 million. Those increases were from administrative service revenues, community development fees, and then community service program and facility rental fees, which all increased with increased user activity in the last fiscal year. Presented here is the general fund expenditure summary, which is a comparison of the actual to final amended budget. General fund expenditures were under their budgeted expectations by $804,000. The final amended budget included professional service estimates that were ultimately performed by town staff, and then reductions in estimated spending levels by departments townwide. Total general fund expenditures equaled $13.9 million, which was increased from a total of $10 million from the prior year. The town's general fund major expenditure categories, they each equate to roughly 30% of the total costs in fiscal year 21-22, with the most growth generated in the operating supplies and services, as town departments expanded programs and services after those reductions that were implemented in 2021. So this is just a snapshot of total revenues, expenditures, and then that blue line is the excess revenues over. So if there was a surplus or deficit each fiscal year since 2017. So what you'll see here is that general fund revenues and expenditures, they've steadily reported balanced results since fiscal year 18. So each year there's been a surplus over the past 5 years. This is due to the town's conservative spending policies and regular budget monitoring. As part of the adopted budget policies, the town's 2-year budget for the 23 and 24 years continues to plan around a balanced budget with regular monitoring as we continue through the rest of this fiscal year.
Very nice.
This is the general fund's unrestricted reserves trend. So since fiscal year 18-19. This current fiscal year, the general fund balance increased from 14.8 million at the end of fiscal year 2021 to 18.5 million in fiscal year 21-22. So of that increase, 3.4 million was attributable to excess revenues over expenditures. In addition, the town utilized the first half of the federally awarded American Rescue Plan Act according to the council's approved ARPA spending plan, which supplemented the annual public safety expenditures for the year. So getting into the excess reserve allocations after we've reviewed those fiscal year end results. In prior years, town council has adhered to the adopted reserve policy for excess allocations. This evening, town staff proposed an updated reserve policy in the council's consent agenda to increase the policy requirements from a 50 to 55% reserve requirement up to a 60 to 65% reserve requirement of those annual general fund expenditures. So while this reduces this year's excess allocation, it will maintain the town's general fund unassigned reserves at a level of 60% over the next year to ensure adequate planning and preparation for any potential shortfalls in budgeted expectations. So this is a recap of the total allocation recommended. The total equals $3.8 million with designations allocated according to the town's updated reserve policy. So firstly, you'll see that town staff recommends designations to the established reserves for pension, catastrophic events, and risk management. Town staff also recommends a new allocation to the town's aquatics and recreation facility reserve to provide additional support and planning for future maintenance and equipment replacement. The remainder of reserves is recommended for allocation to the town's capital project reserve fund, which maintains the vehicle replacement reserves and then funding for future infrastructure projects. I did just want to go on a little bit of a bunny trail here. If you remember in the town's current reserve policy, and it's still included in the updated version, there's a recommendation to have 50% of the reserve allocation go towards pension obligations if the town's pension valuation was not fully funded, which for the town's policy would be roughly 80 to 90% of the total liability. So due to this policy that has been implemented several years ago, the town has been able to supplement the annual required contributions with additional funding to pay down that liability. So what you'll see here is with the CalPERS most recent valuation, and then also including the town's Section 115 trust that was established a few years ago, it's estimated that as of this current year, the town's calculated liability will be funded at 90% for all three tiers, which is great news.
Very good.
So with that supplementation of prior year contributions, the town's trust funds, and then the proposed additional $500,000 designation this fiscal year, it's estimated that the town's pension obligations would be fully funded by 2024. This is assuming CalPERS receives the target discount rates each year, but even with that potential variance, the town is in a positive position to continue funding its future obligations for its employees. So after the recommended reserve allocations that was proposed on those previous slides, the general fund's reserves would be at 60% of the current fiscal year's budgeted expenditures, which would leave a total of $10 million available for potential use if necessary. The recommended capital project reserve allocations would increase the total capital project reserve funds available this year to be $6.3 million. These funds can be assigned for future infrastructure projects, capital improvements, and fleet or equipment replacements. So with that, the recommended actions for this staff report is to receive and file the budget report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2022, and then to amend the 2022-23 general fund budget and special revenue fund budget by transferring the $3.885 million from the general fund unassigned fund balance in accordance with the reserve policy as follows and identified in the exhibit and what was presented in this presentation. And with that, I will stop screen sharing and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jordan. Does any member of the public have any comments, questions? Seeing none. Anyone online? No? Bring it back to the council for comment or questions. Anybody? Councilmember Lombardo?
Wow, this is news that anybody would be happy to receive. It looks like the financial situation is really well handled, and we thank you for your efforts and careful monitoring of this all the time. It looks like conservative policies do pay off in this. We've put ourselves in a good financial situation. On one of the charts towards the end there, it showed a decreasing, let's see, what was it? Can you bring up it was a chart with it was income and expenses, and there was a line that was going below the reserves that we had maintained. That's the one. So in 23, okay, the reserves were anywhere from 60%, which is what we had budgeted for, right? So we're at it, we're not below it. I'm sorry, I was misled by the way the graph looked. I thought we were going to be out of our reserve policy range.
Yes, I'll have to fix my graph and move my box down, but
Yeah, just bump it up a little for me. It makes me feel better. No. It's hard to project into the future years, 24 and stuff, but we should be able to with the money that we have in reserve, we should be able to have some flexibility to make sure that we meet our budgets. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We prepare a 5-year forecast with all of our budget reporting. So we're allocated out with an excess of reserves in 2024. So that percentage is estimated at 73% of budgeted expenditures for the next fiscal year. So that would be 2 years from now. And then we'll prepare a 5-year forecast with the next 2-year budget cycle to make sure those reserves are met.
And that's taking into account the expected increases in outgo due to the pool project and that sort of thing?
Yes, the forecast has included in the next year already recruitment for that additional aquatic staff. And then we've also included percentages for increased utility costs, supplies, et cetera.
And we also recently transferred funds to an investment program that will net us a little bit more of a return as the interest rates climb. So we should see even some further revenue from that. Is that right?
Correct. I think I could ask if Curtis wanted to speak on that. And then with the Measure K results, there would also be
That's right.
potential accommodations with those as well that are not included in the current forecast.
Okay. And Measure K did pass by 72?
Yes, you'll get an update on that at your last item for this evening. But Jordan's correct that your current budget does not reflect any adjustments from Measure K. And we're likely at mid-year, we'll come back with an update on what that picture looks like with that passage.
Okay. Sounds like we're in strong position. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent work. Staff as well.
Any other comments?
Jordan, can you go back to the same slide that Councilmember Lombardo asked for? Can you guys
Everyone see that okay?
Yeah, I can make that out. So at the, when we go through the budget process and so forth, and when we end up having additional funds, we've taken the additional funds and gone towards our pension recovery to offset the pension bill. And then the additional monies would go into other accounts such as capital improvements and so forth. On the slide that you show there, it shows that we had certain amounts of money come in each year. It doesn't show where we adjusted it down to once we transferred the money. Were we adjusting those back down into our reserve policy range, or how's
Yes,
that?
so this graph is best used looking forward rather than backwards. So with each year, you'll see like 21, 22 ended at 102%. And then you'll see the before and after for the next year. Going forward, I can update the graphs to show what we reduced it down to, but it would always go into the reserve policy range of 50 to 55%, and then now the 60 to 65%.
Okay, so you, for this slide, you move the gray box up as what was proposed versus what we had in the past.
Yeah, the gray box is a little high for this particular presentation, but yes, it moved up into 60 to 55% for looking forward with the new reserve policy.
Okay, so in the past, that gray box was much lower, and we're suggesting that we get a little bit more conservative and move it up.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that makes sense to me now. Also, the staff is recommending moving the stabilization reserves. That's where you said 500,000. That would bring us into that 90 percentile or 90% funded category.
Correct. I'll go back to
Yeah, but that 90% is reflected if we move the 500,000 into it.
The 90% is before that allocation. This slide I'm showing here would be what it looks like with that additional contribution as well.
Okay, so we'll be even better shape with that transfer. Catastrophic reserve, have we had that before?
Yes, it's been at a total of $1 million with the old reserve policy, and the new proposal increases it to 1.5 million to just accommodate the fact that costs would be increasing since the last time you looked at that policy. So any potential for catastrophic events, we would probably want a little bit more funding available.
Makes sense with inflation and so forth. And risk management reserves, we've had that before as well?
Yes, again, it's been set to a total of 300,000 in prior years, and we just recommended an increase of that up to 500,000. So we haven't used either of those reserves in the past several years. Those allocations are just to increase those totals so that we can accommodate any additional costs.
Wonderful. Sounds like a really good recommendation from staff. I think it's really sound. Thank you for explaining those things to me. And we continue to be very conservative in our budget, and I appreciate that, and also very conservative in any catastrophic events that might take place. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
One other question. Jordan, on the monies that we allocated to these different reserves, the catastrophic reserve, the risk management reserve, those kind of things, that money is still being invested, isn't it? It's not just sitting in a no interest account. Is that correct?
Correct. So we use reserves, and those are what is part of those investments that are set aside.
So that's all part of that investment fund. Okay, thank you.
Mayor
Very
Pro
good.
Tem.
I just want to say thank you, Jordan, and to staff, of course, for another great report on our finances.
Happy news.
One of the new categories that you put into the reserve was the Aquatics and Recreation Facility Reserve. I just wanted to ask, did you say concrete in there? You were talking about things that could be repaired or fixed, and it sounded like you had said concrete.
I didn't mean to say concrete, hopefully not. I just meant, so when they've been speaking about energy plans and equipment in the few meetings that I get to listen in on all of the wonderful designs, a lot of that is big pieces of equipment that will eventually need to be replaced. And so the management team has thought ahead and remembered that we're going to have to be able to pay to replace those at some point. So this is just starting that reserve policy so that when and eventually those need to be maintained, we can afford it.
Absolutely. I think it's an excellent addition to the reserves. So, and thanks again for everything.
Yes, thank you for the report. The recommendation looks perfect. So we will receive and file the budget report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. And we need a motion on the second item?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll move.
And I'll second that. To amend the general fund budget.
Got a motion and a second?
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes.
Mayor, just a shout out to Jordan and the team for their work. This was probably the year that I spent the least amount of time, just because of bandwidth, and it was delivered on time on our schedule that we had established back in, I think, February or March for audit completion and presentation date to the council. And so a great shout out to getting that done, even with staff challenges that we've had across our departments.
Very nice.
Very good. Okay, we'll move along to item number 14, the short-term vacation rental regulations. And because of potential conflict of interest, we're going to be short a couple of council members, so I'd ask the town attorney to explain that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the council may recall, last year when the council was considering the moratorium on the short-term vacation rentals, we received some guidance from the state's Fair Political Practices Commission regarding potential conflicts of interest associated with council members who own property that could potentially be used as short-term vacation rentals. The FPPC determined that Mayor Schooler and council members Abel, Rhodes, and Lombardo had potential conflicts of interest associated with making amendments to the short-term vacation rental ordinance. So in order to reach a quorum, because we only had one council member left that didn't have a conflict, and in accordance with FPPC rules, the names of all of the conflicted council members were put into a draw for a random selection. The result of the draw was that Mayor Schooler and Councilmember Lombardo were selected to participate in the STVR discussion, along with Councilmember Dennison, with Council members Abel and Rhodes being required to recuse themselves. Under FPPC rules, once there's been a draw to obtain a quorum to discuss a particular subject matter within the town's jurisdiction, the same set of council members are required to be designated for all future
discussions of that same subject matter. Therefore, council members Abel and Rhodes, if he were present, will need to recuse themselves from this item. I also do want to just note that because this is the introduction and potential adoption after a second reading of an ordinance must pass by a majority of the total members of the council. Therefore, to introduce and approve the first reading of this ordinance this evening, the vote will need to be unanimous among the three participating members.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Mayor, since I did lose the drawing, by the way, I did win on the Price is Right, and I appreciate that, but the last drawing I did lose, and so I will be recusing myself. I will be remaining in the chambers here and speaking on behalf of a private citizen later.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move along and ask for a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The recommended action this evening is that the council finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15061B3, which states that if an activity is covered by the general rule that CEQA applies only to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment and where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment, the activity is not subject to CEQA, and that the town council introduces the ordinance repealing and restating in its entirety Chapter 5.40, Short-Term Vacation Rental Permit of the Town of Yucca Valley Municipal Code. And this is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, repealing and restating in its entirety Chapter 5.40, Short-Term Vacation Rental Permit. A little bit of history on this item. The regulations were originally adopted and became effective on December 1st of 2017. Those were the town council's, the town's first regulations of short-term vacation rentals, which fell under ordinance number 271. In October 19th of 2021, the town council gave direction to the commission on potential amendments to the STVR regulations. On November 2nd, 2021, the Town Council enacted a 45-day moratorium regarding short-term vacation rental permits. And then on December 7th, 2021, the Council elected to not extend the 45-day moratorium. And then finally, the Town Council introduced the existing regulations at your meeting of February 15th of 2022. And that was through ordinance number 300. And at that time, a number of changes occurred to the town's short-term vacation rental regulations. And I just kind of want to touch base at a high level on what some of those changes were. Originally in 2017, short-term vacation rentals were guided under the town's development code, and the council's amendment moved those from the development code into the regular municipal code. The adoption of those changes earlier this year significantly increased the fines and penalties for violations of the town's regulations. The town council reduced the maximum number of guests and cars that were allowed, and we'll hit on the table, kind of give a comparison to refresh everyone's memory on what those reductions were. And at that time, the majority of the service requests or complaints that were coming in were focused on noise being generated by short-term vacation rentals as well as traffic or the vehicles in the neighborhood. Town Council established with those changes a 10% cap, and the Planning Commission annually sets what that 10% cap is, and staff will talk about that in a little bit. The council also discussed a couple other areas that were not adopted into the regulations. The council discussed the concept of density, the density of short-term vacation rental units in those neighborhoods. Ultimately, the council did not include those regulations. The council also discussed owner-occupied sites as potentially being exempt from the regulations, and those also were not adopted as part of the regulations. Going back in time, this chart that is before you now was from your original ordinance of 271, which allowed up to a maximum of 14 overnight guests and vehicles, so overnight occupants and vehicles, and 20 daytime guests and vehicles. The amendments in the first change lowered that number, go back from 14 and 20 to 8 and 12. So 8 occupants, 3 vehicles overnight, 12 occupants, and 6 vehicles during the daytime. So a relatively significant reduction from 14 overnight, 20 during the day, reduced down to 8 guests and 12. At that time, the town council made one request for staff to return to the council, and that was to talk about single-family units that were not in a single-family residential zone. So the council asked staff to return to bring back possible amendments in the code for single families that are in either a commercial or an industrial zoning district, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. In addition to that request from the council, staff in the implementation of the code on a daily basis has come back with a couple other areas for amendments as well as emphasis where there are no resulting changes, but hopefully clarifications in the code to help make it a little bit more easily understood by the users of those regulations. But where are we today? So again, the council established with the adoption of ordinance number 300 a 10% cap. That 10% cap for the current year is 771 short-term vacation rental permits. As of Friday, November 11th, current permits were 676, with 46 pending in what I refer to as the pipeline, for a total of approved and pending 722. So as of last Friday, that left 49 remaining slots or remaining permits with the 10% cap that's in place. So that's just kind of to bring the council up to speed on where the community is at in the implementation of short-term vacation rental regulations and that 10% number. As you can imagine, these numbers change on a daily basis. People fall out of the business, they quit, they turn them into long-term rentals. We get new applications. Some weeks we may have a number of new applications, other weeks it could be very, very slow. During the busiest time of short-term vacation rental activity, we had 12 appointments a week booked in excess of 3 months out. Right now we're down to 3 weeks. We may have 4 or 6 appointments in a week. So there's definitely been a fall off, but again, we're approaching that 10% cap. Same numbers at the top of the chart, but we've included service requests. What is a service request? Well, what kind of complaints do we get about short-term vacation rental permits? And you can see in 2021 we had 63, and in 2022 year-to-date we've had 57. These are not fiscal year numbers, these are calendar year numbers. So if you look at the number of permits and the number of stays that represents, the number of overnight stays that represents, the number of complaints that the town receives are minimal, negligible is almost the best definition for those. So staff has returned in section 5.40.070. We've recommended that temporary short-term vacation rentals are allowed in all zoning districts. So again, it has to be a single-family home. It's allowed in any zoning district. But one of the things that we wanted to be careful of is that when you start putting these types of uses in a commercial or an industrial area, in some circumstances you can have incompatibility. And we don't want to see, and we don't recommend that we see, the short-term vacation rental operation begin to file complaints about the normal operations of a commercial and industrial business in an effort to have that business cease its operations. So there's language included in the code that the STVR license that's located in those districts shall not register complaints against existing commercial or industrial uses for their regular operations and activities. So we know we're going to have incompatibility and that there can be complaints at time, but we want to recognize the value of those commercial and industrial operations in their day-to-day activities. Do we have a number of how many of those single-family homes exist in those districts? We do not. We do not have an inventory. We don't have an ability to count that, less sending somebody out in the field to try and come up with an estimate. Bedroom, believe it or not, the building codes don't have a definition for bedroom. They have a definition of a sleeping area. And in the building codes, a sleeping area does not have to be what you and I view as a bedroom, where it's closed off with a door, it has access to a bathroom, and it's not your dining room or it's not your family room. Under the building codes, a family room can be what is defined as a sleeping area. So staff has recommended that we add a definition of bedroom into these regulations because the number of guests is based upon the number of bedrooms. So that's why that has been included as part of the recommended action. Signage, this is again a clarification. This is not a new regulation. Your sign regulations currently allow for 2 square feet of sign area in single-family residential neighborhoods in order to identify the name and address, identification, name and address of that particular home. So this does not create a new regulation. It just brings over the standard from the sign ordinance, so it's readily available for the users of the vacation rental regulations. Same with this section. No other structures on the parcel, including pool houses, guest houses, casitas, sheds, hobby rooms, or studios, can be rented in addition to the short-term vacation rental unit. So the code as it stands today allows one structure on the property to be a vacation rental. That can be the primary residential unit. It can also be an accessory dwelling unit. What the code does not allow is for both of those to be a vacation rental. If you had a single-family residential home and you had a pool house or a guest house without a kitchen, that could not qualify as a vacation rental. So this language is not changing those standards, it's clarifying those standards. Again, clarifying language. This clarifies and makes clear that the unit must be classified as a single-family residential unit. This is in 5.40.070. D must have a kitchen, so a shed, a casita, a hobby room, or a studio doesn't qualify. Under the current regulations, the application requires that the owner submit the precise name of the 3 individuals who are assigned to respond to complaints. So John Smith, phone number ABC, here's the email address. As you can imagine, there are a number of operators that don't use that type of system. They may actually have 10, 15, 20, 30 employees, and they use those employees on a tree for responding. And what staff has found in its daily implementation of this is that there's no real benefit to identifying specific individuals as long as the company is being responsive and addressing the complaints that are coming in. So the language is recommended to come out that those 3 individuals be identified, and this allows companies to use a long list of employees. Still gives the town the ability to enforce the regulations against the owner and the operator if they're non-responsive and not addressing the complaints. So we do not see that this impacts or limits our ability to enforce the regulations at all. We are recommending some new language that is referred to as abandonment. So someone, an individual may come in, file an application, it's incomplete. We tell them that it's incomplete, and 90 days later, they still have not completed that process. So in your development code, you actually, remember we've removed this from the development code. In your development code, there's a 90-day period where they have to be responsive and keep their application going. And so the recommendation here is that the applicant has to complete that application within 45 days of receiving notice from town staff of the additional information that's required. This makes sure that we have individuals who are really committed to the community, to establishing those vacation rentals and keeping them operational. When the council made the amendments in February of this year and you reduced the maximum number of overnight guests down to number 8, the council put in the flexibility using a land use compliance review process to increase above 8 guests. But at that time, the ordinance had no criteria. So what criteria would we use to evaluate an application, and what criteria would we use to try and make sure that we are treating all applicants equally with the same standard? And that's an important, equitable implementation of codes is important. So staff had developed some draft language. It's included in the revised packet that the town clerk distributed to the council on page 22. It's item 5.40.160. And I'm just going to read through these. The STVR has remained in good standing for the duration of the permit activity. Legal access exists to the property. The STVR unit is at least 2,500 square feet in size. There's at least 4 bedrooms. It's on a minimum site of 1 acre. And all properties within 1/2 mile of the exterior boundaries of the property are greater than 1/2 acre in size, and that it's a minimum of 300 feet away from any other STVR. So the thinking or the thoughts that went into these regulations goes back to the complaints that the council was hearing in early 2022, and why the council made the revisions to ordinance number 271. The council was hearing about primarily parties and noise and cars and traffic. So in land use, how do you start minimizing the possibility of impacts of noise and vehicles? You start separating and reducing that through the use of density. So lot size, distance from smaller lots, that's a very common approach to land use. 2 permits for exceeding the number of 8 guests were presented to the Planning Commission in the last 10 months. And those standards, quite frankly, did not work. And the second one that went back to the Planning Commission, the Commission ultimately reverted back to the use of bedrooms to determine the maximum number of guests. So in the council's deliberations this evening, if the council is looking at any modification to the maximum number of guests, if you want to rely on the use of the bedroom formula, then that section can be removed from the ordinance and does not need to be included. And again, that's a council policy discussion this evening. Again, that's 5.40.160, required findings for increased occupancy. Again, it didn't work well at the 2 times we went to the Planning Commission. And the commission ultimately on the second permit went back and started referencing the use of bedrooms to make that ultimate determination. Waiting list. So what happens when the town reaches its 10% limit? Excuse me. Individuals are going to want to be on a waiting list. So you have to have an application to get on the waiting list, and you have to have a process for the waiting list. So staff has created an application form. People would go onto that waiting list in the order that the town receives that application. We'd have to be tracking that. And then they're given a certain length of time. Once a slot opens up, we provide them notice. They have a certain length of time to make application and keep that process moving forward. Transfer. So transfer of permits. Today, the town's regulations do not allow for the transfer of a vacation rental permit. So let's say you have a home, it has an existing permit, and you've decided to sell that home. When you sell that home, the permit does not go with that home. The new purchaser of that home, if they want a vacation rental there, they have to file a brand new application and go through that process. language has been added into this code, into the amendments this evening, that would allow for the transfer of that existing permit. Some people argue that, is that really a fair way to approach it? And so I'll just give the council one example. So an existing operator has a permit, they sell their home, and the new purchaser can acquire that vacation rental permit. At the same time, you have a purpose builder, and let's take, for example, the gentleman that built the large homes up on Fairway as vacation rentals. He does purpose building. Builds a brand new house, purpose built. That person has to go on the wait list. So is a transfer option equitable treatment of all property owners? I don't know. That's a conversation I think the council needs to have as to whether you want to have that included or not, or is everybody on the same playing field that if it's a new person, they have to file a new application, and that's really for council consideration. Again, most of the changes are clarifications. We've come back with definitions for bedroom. The council has the opportunity, if you so choose, you can discuss, is the 10% cap adequate? Do you want to change that? Does it need to be increased, decreased? We've heard both, actually. We've heard from some operators that the market is so oversaturated that it's hard to make a profit, and that they would hope that the town council would reduce that 10% cap. At the same time, excuse me, others have indicated that number needs to be higher. That may be on the council's discussion list this evening. The number of guests may be an item for discussion. I think most everything else is really relatively simple and straightforward from the clarifications that staff has brought forward. That concludes staff's presentation this evening. We've gone over the recommendation. That's a part of the public record. We've read the title of the code. Staff would be happy to answer questions following any public comment.
Thank you, Shane. Does anybody in the room this evening wish to comment on this item? Seeing no, oh, we do have one.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm reading a letter from a citizen, Anthony Bettenhausen. Bettenschauer. Hi, my name is Anthony. I would first start off to say I love and excited to be part of this community and looking forward to my continued investment in Yucca Valley for the long term. I understand that the current owners are not allowed to Airbnb their homes if they're in a commercial zoning. My opinion is that industrial or commercial areas would actually be more ideal and less of a nuisance to the residents living in the town versus running an STR in a neighborhood. I have acres and acres of land between myself and my neighbors, so noise and other concerns shouldn't be an issue. I think it to be fair for all if someone who owns a single-family resident, regardless of all zoning, all those would have potential STR applicants, and they should be given equal treatment and allowed the same opportunities. And once again, to reiterate, I believe since my area is little more rural and isolated, it will be unconceivable or unnoticeable to neighbors and residents. I hope you take this into your consideration and allow myself and others the same opportunities to grow, invest, and experience all of what beautiful Yucca Valley has to offer. Signed by Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abel. Does anybody else wish to comment on this? Do we have any online requests?
Yes, we have two requests to comment. First, Margaret Strachan, followed by Chris Robinson. Margaret Strachan, I have requested you to unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Margaret Strachan. I'm a resident of the town of Yucca Valley. I'm commenting on and have a few questions about item 14 regarding short-term vacation rental permits. As far as parking on site, I need clarification regarding the dust-proof material requirements. Does entire access driveway need to be dust-proofed, or simply the space the vehicle is parked on? Regarding outdoor lighting, what is required from the owner for certification that the lighting is shielded? With regard to permit transfer, this is inherently unfair and a new application must be made. Regarding abandonment, does code enforcement follow up to ensure the home is not being short-term rented illegally anyway? This occurred next to me. One area of concern that I do not see addressed is safe emergency evacuation of the properties. Many short-term rentals are located in areas with significant fire threat. A particular concern to me is Balsa Avenue south of San Andreas Road. Many STRs use this very narrow, single-lane dirt road for access, and Balsa empties to the north into my neighborhood with potential to impact residents' evacuation and everyone's safety. Thank you.
Chris Robinson, I have requested you to unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Chris Robinson, and I work for a property manager who manages about 18 properties in Yucca Valley. I just wanted to speak tonight on a couple of points. One, on the occupancy issue, I believe the easiest way to handle occupancy is just by a straight bedroom formula. It's fair and the easiest way to administer it. Bedroom counts are usually available via the county assessor or by building records checks, so it makes it easy for staff to administer and easy for short-term rental operators to understand about what they can expect their occupancy to be going forward for a property. As far, I would also like additional clarification from town staff if possible on the guest house and casita use. I was wanting to know if guest houses and casitas can be rented in conjunction with a single family residence. For example, if a renter wants to use, if there's a guest house on property and they're renting the main house, if they can also use the guest house during the stay, or if that prohibits a guest house or casita from being used, period, by any type of renter on the property. And the third point I wanted to make was on the transferability aspect. I believe that would be a fair regulation if it's tweaked a little bit. First, I think transferability works for continuity of stays for people who may sell their home and then have additional stays where people have booked out a year in advance and they're able to keep those stays going. But I do think it would probably be bolstered by having a additional use it or lose it provision with permits, so people can't hoard permits if somebody buys a new home and they don't intend to use it, but they want to keep it to perhaps raise the value of the property. Having some type of use it or lose it provision, such as somebody has to rent 90 days per year to keep their permit, allows for that transferability of permits to work for people who may want to buy a short-term rental home, while also allowing new operators the opportunity to operate a short-term rental within Yucca Valley, as not everybody who buys an existing short-term rental is going to necessarily want to use that property as a short-term rental into the future. So I look forward to the discussion by the council on these agenda items, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments online?
That is all the online comments we have.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to the council for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
Thank you, staff, for the update on Ordinance 300 that was proposed tonight. This is really good what we're doing tonight. It was brought about a year ago when short-term vacation rental ordinance was first created and tried to solve some of the issues that were brought forward from the town residents. And part of that in my discussions was to review this annually. Now, certainly emergencies we would handle at that moment, but most of it was just good management and trying to figure out how the system is going to work and evolve and make it better. One of the things staff talked about were complaints that were received. We had 65 last year, 57 to date this year as time of the report, and just mathing that out, it put us at 62. There was essentially no difference between the numbers that we've received on those. It's actually fractionally lower, so about 5%. And that's a good direction. We wanted the pendulum to swing the other way, so that's my start. A couple things we were looking at, the count at 771, and that's based on 10% of our inventory in the town, and that would be the cap for it. We're getting close to that, as staff had mentioned. A year ago, we came in here talking about disruptions and reports of that with noise density in the area. too much congestion. One of the speakers tonight online talked about Bolsa Avenue and concerns in that area with that. So for me, what I'm seeing in the new ordinance were things that I think needed to be resolved. The second speaker tonight talked about one of the easiest ways with clarity for not just hosts of the homes, but also for those that are coming to our community just trying to figure out how things are running, was with the bedroom count. And I think that's very good. It's very easy to manage. We understand that. Staff included in this, in the agenda this evening, clarification on what a bedroom meant. As he had mentioned, it's not in the code to really talk about what is or isn't a bedroom. And so here it is for us to be able to identify those and give them some type of framework to use, which I think is good in its presented form. So that is one thing that we want to figure out, is how many people we can have in the occupancy. You've seen we've lowered it quite a bit. Myself in my district, or from any district, no one has contacted me in the prior year since the new ordinance came out a year ago of any issues with short-term vacation rentals in the town. I haven't received any by email, by text, by voices, or wanting to get together, or even addressing at a council meeting. So that, for me, is an indication that apparently things are going the right way. We don't have any speakers in the audience tonight that are in opposition of continuing with the direction that the council and staff is using to help regulate short-term vacation rentals. One thing that I've had brought up to me, which was something to try and once again balance out, we can avoid density in areas by trying to spread out the density of some of these clusters. And I think it also provides clarification to the hosts and to the public when we are looking to allow a short-term vacation rental in basically any area within the town of Yucca Valley, but with some exceptions when we're looking at commercial, industrial areas, that the short-term vacation rental does not become a hindrance for the business in there. And that was brought up by staff as being considered and put into the ordinance that's shown here tonight. So I think that's good also. We shouldn't try and split zones and figure out what is the most appropriate area or not. Disruption is a disruption, and I think if we can spread it out a little bit, it's going to be better for the entire program. The next one is, if we have a short-term vacation rental that is working good in an area, and I haven't received any reports on it, it would make sense for me and the neighborhood to understand that's what that is, and they should be able to continue that should the owner of the property want to transfer that through a sale, and they can continue to use that as a short-term vacation rental. These new owners would still be under, they would still have the responsibility to go through the permitting process and abide by all the regulations and all the controls that we have in place today. So we would still be pushing very hard to ensure that there's very minimal disruption in our communities. Those were the three biggest things that I had that I just wanted to mention. I'm glad to see that the work and the program that was put together by the community, requested by the community, and staff put together, that we are seeing the numbers. I think right now we're at the highest level of short-term vacation rentals in the town, and we've actually had a 5% reduction in complaints. Now, I don't know what the level of them. I didn't drill down into that. A complaint is a complaint. I don't like to hear it from the community. But we are going the right way, and I'd like to put in ways within the ordinance that I just talked about, those three items, which was the transfer and homes outside of regular residential areas. I had one more for staff. I have seen in the area signage that has just been placed in front of many locations, and the signage may say the Cactus Garden, 123 Dirt Road. Today, as presented, it was a 2x2 sign. That was the current ordinance, and some of these that I've seen are quite expansive, maybe even 6 to 8 feet in width, and then higher. So, but that it doesn't indicate to me actually that it is a short-term rental. It could just be someone being fancy with a sign in front of their house and being creative, which we all are about, some of the desert lifestyle and the expression and the art. I guess that's something that we'd have to discuss later and look at those things that are in today and see how that would work. Because I do believe that at least location identification is very important, And I like clear signs, especially on the more rural areas with a long access road where people could possibly get into someone else's property. So signage is good in a lot of ways, but I think the standardization is something we need to look at too and continue with that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Lombardo.
I kind of also agree that we need to look into the signage a bit. So I don't know how to write that into the existing thing, but maybe we could start with what's written in the ordinance as it is now, a 2 foot by, I think it was 2 foot square, right? 1 foot by
2 square feet. I
2
believe.
square
2
feet.
square feet.
I don't know if that's sufficient, but that's something maybe we can discuss later. But I would say that we've got a good place to start with what's written in the ordinance now. I do think we need to simplify the idea of how many persons per residence, and I like the idea of basing it on bedrooms. So if you have a 4-bedroom house, it would be 8 people, and maybe even an additional 2 in case a lot of times families travel together, and although you have to count them as people, kids often can occupy a space much smaller or without being a big problem, and I think that might be a fair way to approach that. So I think that the parking spaces also ought to be based on the number of bedrooms so that you have room to park every vehicle that would be occupying a bedroom on the property in a compliant manner. They talk about dust reducing materials like gravel or pavement, and I think that's appropriate. I think that there should be an easy method to transfer the permit from a home that is operating as an existing short-term vacation rental. When it is sold, the owner should have the option to continue the permit and thus fill out the new or changed information. But I think they should have access to the spot in the list that existing STV had prior. So if we reach our 10% maximum and somebody has a short-term vacation rental that they're now going to sell, somebody can acquire that home with the expectation that they can use it as a short-term vacation rental. But they are required to fill out and change the necessary information on the application, and they need to be apprised of what it is to stay in compliance. So let's see, where are we? Oh, you're looking at the short-term vacation rental number of guests.
So I just pulled this up.
Okay.
It sounds like the
This
council's
is-
going in that direction. Please,
Okay.
feel free to continue with the comments, and then we can come back to the chart.
This is what we were talking about, number of bedrooms, and I agree with the way this is written. Number of bedrooms, 2 people per bedroom, plus 2.
So the comments that staff has heard so far is that you agree with the amendments for adding commercial and industrial.
Yes.
The 2 council members that have commented so far have indicated support for the transfer language to stay in.
Yes.
For transferring of existing permits, and then you have both talked about going to the number of bedrooms. So if the council stays on that path, the section that staff referenced on the standards within the draft ordinance, which is 5.40.160, required findings for increased occupancy would be removed because the council has indicated desire to stay with the number of bedrooms. So ultimately, and I think the mayor still is making comments this evening, the council may want to say, as a starting point, what is the maximum? Do you want to start with a maximum number of guests? So in your first ordinance, you had that at 14. In your current ordinance, that number is set at 8. And so when the council gets to that point, you may want to say, okay, do we want a maximum, yes or no? If we do want a maximum, what do we think that is? And then we can start refining it down from there.
Okay.
And that was with the inclusion of the clarification on a bedroom that we would be considering within.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The definition of bedroom would stay included.
It was pretty focused.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. What else did I want to say? It's my opinion that we should keep the 10% maximum until we have reached that level and have that discussed at that time. Right now, we're still 49 shy. We may achieve that this year or next year, but I have a feeling that things are changing in that industry, and that because of competition and then maybe a drop-off of the number of people trying to rent, that it's going to flush itself out a little bit. It's like any new idea. It's kind of a flurry of interest, and we have had a couple of very good years of renting and a lot of building, and I think it's going to balance itself out a little bit. I'm hopeful that that will make more long-term rental available in our community as people take the marginal STVs, short-term rentals off the market and turn them into long-term rentals, which we need. What else? I think that's all I have at this time.
Okay, we can come back to you.
Hash things out if there's something we don't have
So I'll make one
fully
more
under
comment.
control.
Sure.
Just to follow up, staff. So what I was looking at originally was in 060B, the table in there, and that included with 160.
Up to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. That one, in conjunction with 160, is really more of where I was at the beginning, because we were looking at I'm looking at it that's similar to the previous ordinance that allowed those certain STVRs to be reviewed for additional occupancy. Is that along the same lines, what you're looking at is in 40160?
So in your existing regulations, there's a cap at 8 guests. But there's a permit process available if someone wants to request exceeding 8 overnight guests.
Okay.
It didn't work well.
Which requires more staff time, I believe.
Well, that wasn't the issue. The issue is, what is the criteria? What are the standards that we're going to follow so that every applicant is treated the same way? So typically, in order to do that, you have standards that you have to follow so that we're applying. You always want to apply the same rules to everyone.
Yes.
And so that's why staff came up with those criteria of a 2,500 square foot house, a 1 acre lot, those types of things, so that we could start to apply the rules equitably to every applicant that walked in the door. And it just wasn't meshing. It just didn't work. So I think that's why the commission went back to the easiest approach is the number of bedrooms. So throw those criteria away, and let's just go back to that standard of the bedroom formula. And if that's, and in that process, staff would anticipate the council would draw a line in the sand that we're setting the maximum number at, I'll just pull a number out of the air, 12. We're gonna set it at 12, and we cannot exceed 12. So there is no application process to exceed that number. We're setting the maximum number at 12. It's based upon the number of bedrooms. This is administered at the staff level. The permits are issued at the staff level. End of discussion. So that would be the alternative approach.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Shane, do we have any permits issued for more than 12? Anyone that's gone through the review process for more than 12 guests?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Not under the the existing regulations. There may have been under the first ordinance.
Okay.
They may have had a permit under that level, but not under the current
Okay,
regulation.
but not since we reviewed it the last time.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, this is an annual review, so this does state that we will review it again in a year. So we're just trying to fine tune what we have. In terms of the service requests, complaints, the numbers we saw up there, there were 60 or so complaints. When you think about the number of permits and the number of rental nights, 200 to 300 nights a year per permit, 60 or so complaints in the course of a year is infinitesimal. It's very small. Now, I don't think that's exactly a perfect tally of complaints, because sometimes we hear from people that didn't use the tools that we give them to go online and report their complaint. They just come to us personally or something. But in general, I think that's a pretty good indication that the short-term vacation rentals are not a huge, significant problem in our neighborhoods, just based on the number of complaints that we get. And that doesn't take into account the gravity of the complaints, but I haven't heard of any high crimes and misdemeanors on short-term vacation rentals. You did refer to the waiting list when a slot opens up. How would we know that a slot opened up?
So staff would be tracking active permit counts. And when it would drop below that 10% number, there might be one, there might be two, there might be three, and then staff would notify number one on the wait list, number two on the wait list, number three on the wait list.
So if somebody failed to renew their permit, that's probably the indicator that would
absolutely
track it. Yep. Okay. Okay, as far as the cap, I think we're fine with the cap at 10% for now. I think increasing or decreasing would just be a little bit arbitrary at this point, because things are changing. We've noticed that things seem to be leveling out, and we may be approaching a saturation point, which we just got to keep watching that. I think it could lead to more long-term rentals if it gets so saturated that people aren't making the kind of money that they thought they would make. So I'm fine with keeping the cap where it is. I do like the move to permit them in all zones. I think the few that I'm aware of that were in industrial or commercial, I've gone out and looked at those properties, and I see really no issues. I can't even forecast any issues with the few that I've looked at. We did have a question online regarding the dust-proof material and where that would be required. Do you have clarification on that?
And thank you, Mary. Yes, dust-proofing would be required anywhere where they drive or park. It's not for the entire parcel. As you can imagine, we have STVRs that are on 5, 10 larger parcels, so it's just a matter of the driveway area and anywhere where they're parking.
Okay, thank you. Transferability, I like the language that changes that. We do have issues where if somebody sells their house and they do have bookings 3 or 6 or 12 months out, that those people at the other end that have booked a stay in our area would be left to look for something else. So I think it makes sense to offer that ability to continue the permit. So I like that. The guests per bedroom issue, I guess could we see that other slide? There we go. 2 per bedroom plus 2, basically, right? Is that kind of the math on that? Up to a maximum of 14. And you said nobody's applied, nobody's come in for a review to ask for more than 14? Or
No, not more than 14.
Yeah, okay. All right. Or even more than 12, I guess, was the original question, but.
There may have been one request for in excess of 12, but it was not permitted in excess of 12.
Okay, okay.
Did they meet the requirements of bedrooms? Do we have any 7-bedroom homes in Yucca Valley?
Yes.
We do. And do we have anything over 7 bedrooms? Not that we're aware of.
There very easily could be.
There could be.
So the requirement for a 1-acre lot, is that part of what we're keeping or?
So if the council prefers to use the criteria of just bedroom, the criteria in that section that you're looking at, which includes the 1-acre lot, would be removed from the ordinance. And the council would rely strictly on the number of
Strictly
bedrooms.
on the bedrooms.
Yes, sir.
Well, then that makes sense to me, and I kind of like the numbers that I see up there. I agree. So with that and signage, I really don't have any issues with the signage. We should probably review that, but, so I sense that we're in agreement. Does anybody have any other comments? Any other comments? Does staff have clear direction?
So the action with a motion and a second by the council this evening is to introduce the ordinance, increasing the table to the previous table from ordinance number 271 and removing the criteria, removing section, excuse me just a minute, removing section 5.40.160 required findings for increased occupancy. Those are the changes that the council has identified this evening.
Oh, one more
And
question.
renumber the ordinance accordingly. And separate from the technical portion, the council is requested to revisit sign regulations at some point in the future.
One more thing. I was mentioned about changing the amount of time that they respond to a request for more information, or they abdicate the permit. And I think that's appropriate so that we can move in a timely manner, and it will help us keep the roster free of people that are not actively participating. And each permit is renewed on a yearly basis based on when, 2-year basis, based on when they apply, or is it a year, is it a January?
It's issuance date.
Issuance.
Yes, sir.
Is that the most efficient way to do it?
Yes, sir.
To spread it out over time so
Yep.
that, okay. And in that way, when people fall out of the, let's say we get to our 10% cap, would people be, how would we know when somebody is no longer going to use it or is not renting it anymore?
That becomes more difficult. So they may keep their permit valid and not be actively renting it. And that's an internal discussion that we have started. And it may be a service provider that we have to seek out that helps us track that information down or through other mechanisms. But that's probably a future discussion that we'll be looking at.
Because that's something we should look at so that people aren't hoarding the permits
Yes,
and
sir.
not using them. Like, we've got to make sure that it's fair and that when one's not being used, it's an opportunity for somebody that really does want to work it and make it happen. So, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to move on. Well, I'd like to move back to the question of whether a guest house or casita would be included as the primary residence.
So the current regulations require or allow one structure only on the property, and that one structure, that's correct. Has to be a single-family home, can be the primary residence, or it can be an accessory dwelling unit, both of which are classified as a single-family home. The purpose of that, back when that was put into place, was so that there wasn't multiple structures. If somebody had 4 or 5 or 6 different outbuildings, that we weren't starting to have the appearance of maybe a small hotel operation occurring on the site. So it is limited to one structure on the site.
Structure, so that clarifies that. Okay, appreciate that. Any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move. Go ahead. I'll move that we approve the, let's see here, an ordinance for the town of Yucca Valley, California, repealing and restating in its entirety Chapter 5.40, temporary short-term vacation rental permit to reflect the changes that we've discussed.
And I'll second that. We have a motion and a second.
Council members Dennison,
Yes.
Lombardo,
Yes.
and Mayor Schooler.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, all the work on that. We'll move on to item number 15, municipal election update. Staff
Mayor,
report, please.
there we go. I was just ensuring your other council member was in here.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to give you a brief update on the election process. We're currently in the 30-day canvass period after the election from November 8th. The registrar of voters will have 30 days where they go through and check signatures, checked damaged ballots, provisional ballots. There's just kind of this follow-up period that they could work on some of those little abnormal things. So we're expecting the results from the election by December 6th. And at that point, we're going to be scheduling the certification here for our local election on December 20th. So the first thing we want to talk about is voter turnout. I don't know who's doing the clicker. Okay, so voter turnout. These numbers are as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. So Yucca Valley looks like we have a pretty good showing in comparison to the San Bernardino County and even the state. So out of our 12,501 registered voters, so as of right now, which is just a snapshot at this point in time, we had 5,188 voters turn out. And of those, 4,420 were mail ballots and 768 were from our polling locations. And just for clarification, if somebody had a mail ballot and just dropped it off at a polling location, it would still be considered a mail ballot. It wasn't one of those where they used the actual polling machine. We also have 3 of our council members that ran unopposed, so we want to congratulate the 3 of them. And we look forward to working with you for another 4 years.
Very nice.
So Measure K. This was as of this afternoon. Right now, it's 71.78% approval rate, which is actually quite good. We want to thank our local voters for seeing the need for additional services here locally. On that, the ordinance for Measure K, it was written that the effective date is 10 days after the town council certification of the election. So we have the certification scheduled for December 20th, which would bring that effective date as December 30th. So as of the beginning of 2023, we'll be all set for the new rate for our transit occupancy tax.
We will be notifying the public, particularly our TOT operators, of the change effective January 1, 2023, and we're also beginning that conversation with those entities that we have voluntary collection agreements with, namely Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, to ensure that they have that programmed into their collection methods effective January.
Very good.
Thank you. And also San Bernardino County's Measure D, their taxpayer protection and government reform measure. This was as of yesterday's date, not today, was at 58.88% approval rate. This is a county charter amendment that clarifies term limits of the Board of Supervisors, the compensation, and a need for supermajority by the board for any tax increase. It also provides stability for our local constituents in their board representation. So that concludes the brief update. If anybody wants to follow the election results, they can see that at the Registrar of Voters website.
Thank you, Leslie. Does any member of the public want to comment on this? Anyone online? No. Council members? Nope. Okay, thank you. That's a receive and file. We move on to future agenda items. Anybody have a future agenda item for discussion? Suggest? Okay. It's probably not the right place to put this, but I think I would like to just suggest that in our beautification effort, we address the feather banners that I see on the highway. I know I'm not a real fan of feather banners, but the ones that are so faded and so worn out, that really goes exactly against our beautification. I think if there's some way to enforce that, it's probably not a future agenda item, so I don't know what I'm talking about, just thought I'd bring it up. Okay. So public comments. We'll move on to public comments. The Town Council takes this time to consider your comments on items of concern which are not on the printed agenda. When you are called to speak, please state your name and community of residence. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Inappropriate behavior which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting will result in forfeiture of your public comment privileges. The Town Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not on the printed agenda. Do we have anybody in the room that would like to make a comment this evening?
Thank you. We have a request to speak by Susie Dick.
Thank you for letting me come, and thank you for all your time that you put into the city of Yucca Valley. We're really impressed. So I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to give information. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that is right here in Yucca Valley, and we have a family history library. And at the library, you can go in and learn where your family is or was, and who they are, and be connected to all kinds of different family trees, and it's just, well, let me just tell you about me. So I started doing this some years ago, and we have it's called Family History Library. I gotta hurry. And it, the FamilySearch.org takes your information, and then they put it together with other people who are working on the same family tree, and then they send you that information. So this last 2 weeks ago, I found out I had a relative named John Stewart who was born in 1619 and owned land in Gloucester, Massachusetts. So that's kind of the fun part of it. The information that I have given you is a booklet to get you started, and it goes clear back to your great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother on both sides. And you can fill it out, fill it in memories, and then you've got your family history almost started right there. But at our family history library, what we offer are professional help. The lady that came with me, her name is Fran Ratcliffe, and she's one of the helpers there. And they are there to help you get started, help show you how to use the family search website. And then the best part about the whole thing is that you have access to all of those websites in there that are in that paper. And they're the Irish Index, the British Index, World War II or World Civil War Index, and then stories. I mean, it's just amazing amount of information that is there, and it's all free. So if you go to, you can sign up on your own website, which is right from your home, the FamilySearch.org. It's free of charge. And you can work from home and do it at home as well. Otherwise, I lost my thought. Dang. Anyway, it's free. Oh, I know what I was going to say. And all those other ones are free as well if you go to the library. But if you don't go to the library, you have to pay for those sites. And Ancestry.com goes up to $335 a year just to use their site. And I think I'm finished. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Susie.
Thank you for the information. I think it's really useful, and a lot of people will be able to make good use of this.
Thank you.
Always interesting to see your history.
Yeah, and it's right here in Yucca Valley. It's on Sage, and there on the back of the book is the name of the man who is in charge of it right now. His name is Gary Shear, and if you'd like to make an appointment to go there, you just call that number and he'll set it up for you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all your time tonight, you guys. This has been a long night for you.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your endurance as well. Anybody else? Comments? Please state your name and community of residence.
Thank you. Joshua Tomaszewski. I'm a resident of Landers. So this is my first town council meeting. Just want to get more involved in the community. Thank you all for having me. As I listened to town staff, Ms. Jordan's presentation, and the re-election of some of our council members, it reminded me of some research that I was doing the other day. Mainly the State Auditor's Office of California. They rank 420 California cities by risk factor. And so those that are ranked the highest have the least amount of risk based off of like numerous factors. Let's see, general fund reserves, debt burden, liquidity, revenue trends, pension obligations, and pension funding. Yucca Valley ranks 419 out of 420. So really fantastic work from town staff, council members. Really appreciate you, and proud to live here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. We've improved our standing, actually, haven't we?
Yeah.
We were in the top 5%. I think now we're just right up there at the top. So
That's awesome.
good job, staff. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We have one person on the line requesting public comment. Margaret Strachan, I have requested you to unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Margaret Strachan. I don't know if you can clarify this now or if I need to contact you during business hours tomorrow. I would like to clarify the occupancy of a short-term rental. Have we walked away from having 8 guests and 3 cars overnight as a maximum? Or are we now looking at potentially 16 guests in a 7-bedroom home with 20 cars during the day, going back to the previous chart? Are we holding to the regulations that were put in place in February of 2022? Please clarify for me.
So under state law, under public comments, we cannot address items that were taken under action by the council on their regular agenda. The council did amend the code and increase the number of overnight guests. Please give planning staff a call tomorrow, and they'd be happy to address that with you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Online? No? In person? No? Okay, we'll move on to staff reports and comments.
I don't know that we have a whole lot this late evening. Anybody on staff have anything that's urgent? I do want to say welcome again to Chad, filling in for Tom today. Great to have you. We had a great conversation this afternoon on a number of business items. And Battalion Chief McClintock, we're going to have you back up for an update on San Bernardino County Fire soon. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back for council member reports and comments. Council member Abel.
Yeah, thank you for all those that attended. Congratulations to the Youth Commission. Probably the most nervous I've ever been at a town council meeting was when I was over there speaking on that side. So I do appreciate the people getting up there and speaking. You know, all of a sudden you're talking to the council. I'm intimidated, and then all of a sudden they get the big screen and my picture's behind there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know. So I do empathize and relate to those people who have to get up there and speak. It is different when you're on that side of the lectern. I'm really, really excited about the Aquatics and Recreation Center, the proposal. It was fantastic. I'm hoping that perhaps maybe with some additional funding and so forth, we can get a higher return of renewable energy. It's said at like 50-some% return on our energy costs. Yeah, I think maybe we should try to push that to be 100% or as close as we can to have it energy neutral as much as possible. So maybe some upfront monies for paneling, additional panels or whatever to try to get that percentage higher than the 50% would be great. Also, I'd really like to encourage fire and law enforcement to take a look at the plans and the building to consider the safety issues. Unfortunately, sometimes public buildings become high target areas and so forth, and I want to make sure that our staff and our constituents using the facility have as many safeguards involved in that new building as possible. Ways to notify law enforcement or fire at a push of a button if there's something going down. Perhaps being able to lock down the building, lock down doors, a safe room or safe way to be able to evacuate or move people about. So it'd really be good, and some security, video and so forth. So I know in public comments, we can't go through all our security procedures and so forth, but really do want to see law enforcement and fire get involved in taking a look at it, maybe thinking of some things that we didn't think about with design that could be a possible issue or problem. I wanted to wish Councilmember Drodes a quick and full and speedy recovery. We miss him being up here and so forth, and we're hoping that he gets mended up real quick because I know he loves to be here and loves to be part of the process. And thank you for the report on the election. Again, it said Town of Yucca Valley did really well in getting out and voting in a non-presidential election, 41.5%. I'm pleased to announce that District 3 had 44.6% participation. So the people who live in my district went to the polls or they mailed in their ballots at a record number, and I appreciate their involvement in the process of elections. And thank you again for being here tonight, everyone, and for all your input.
Thank you. Councilmember Lombardo.
I want to thank everybody for your attendance and those online. Congrats to the Youth Commission. I'm sure they're going to enjoy their experience, and it will be a great addition to our functioning here to have them comment and participate. Welcome to the new town workforce, Terry and Irina. We look forward to working with you as well, and hope that you find the job challenging and fun, and hopefully it's a passion, so it's not just a job. Please keep us, this is for the community, please keep us informed of any concerns that you have, especially regarding the short-term vacation rentals. We made a few changes today, and this is going to be something that's reviewed on a yearly basis. We want to try to, we know it's kind of a moving object that we have to fine-tune to get it so that it's helpful to the community and not a burden, and we've got to figure our way through that. So please feel free to comment, and as well as other things that are going on in the town that you might have concerns over. We want to be open and approachable. Feel free to call us, any one of us, at any time. Although we are in districts, we still are happy to entertain comments and to discuss things with our constituents or with other members of the community, even if you're not in our district. I just want to say how much fun the film festival was. Attended it this last weekend. It was well attended all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We really found a wonderful person, and to help lead this, Matt and his wife, Oregon, were wonderful in the way they got things going, and our staff was outstanding in their presentation, the way they decorated the room. There were so many people involved in the meals and just everything that went on. It was just really wonderful to see, and there was a lot of interaction with the community and with people from outside our community that had incredibly nice things to say about the way it was organized and how welcoming we were as a community. And I think that goes to speak well of everybody in our community. A lot of great ideas exchanged, and if you haven't been involved in the film festival, find a way to get involved. It's really rewarding. It was really interesting. Learned a lot of things on the documentaries about some of the Spanish Trail and Borrego Springs, and it was just all sorts of wonderful things. So highly recommend that. Councilman Droz, please heal quickly and come back. We need your help. No. I think that's about it. Congratulations to our returning council members. And thank you to our financial staff. What wonderful news it is to hear that you have an extra $3.7 million to add to the budget for next year. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start off first by saying thank you to all the veterans out there that were here at our annual event. We rotate with 29 Palms. We were happy to host a Veterans Day event here, and it was very well received. And it's pretty special. There was a good outcome. There were those that came out and had food. We had a breakfast at the senior center that's been all remodeled, and just good fellowship over there, great participation on the stage. The mayor was the host for the event on last Friday, and it was a good time to hang out. The weather could have cooperated a little better, but we're in the desert and it's November. But other than that, it was good. Good spirits all the way around. It was nice to be there. I want to thank Dominic for being here today from Shannon Grove's office. He has been present. He's been involved. He attends. He's been a good representative for such a huge district. The senatorial district is gigantic. It's bigger than San Bernardino County. And he makes the time to make sure that he's well briefed and share that information and take comments from our community back up to the senator. And she has done a lot of work for us. And for that, I am very thankful for Senator Groves. Thanks again. It's already been said to Terry Foster and Irina Hess being here and part of the team now. I've had an opportunity to work with both of them. Well, just meet Irina a little bit. But she is so enthusiastic about being here, and I know that our standards are very high, but the team is even better. You know, the team is just great here and really produces good products, especially in the finance department, which was very highlighted today. That was our highlight of the meeting, I believe. And one last thing, thank you to the community for having trusted me in District 5 for the position of your council member. It's an honor to be here. And also for our community as a whole for their support in Measure K. When you get a ballot measure, anything especially to do with taxation, sometimes it can be kind of confusing and people just don't want to address it. But I think the clarity to the community was there. And when we were at 72% right now, right next to it, that's a pretty good indication that the community was comfortable and understood what they were voting on. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, the hour is late, and all the boxes have been checked on my list with you guys, so I'm not going to repeat them all, but just thank you, and ditto to all the comments that we've had here. We'll move on to announcements. The next regular meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council will be held on Tuesday, December 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Yucca Valley Community Center Yucca Room. And with that, the council will be adjourning to closed session. So, thank you for coming.